Ladies and gentlemen, Diamond Podcasting Productions presents The Shoot, a pro wrestling podcast, with your hosts, Dan Burke and Drew McKenzie.
This weekend, it seems like we're, as you could say, another international show for WWE. It seems like we just got back from one, and it also just seems like yesterday that they were in France for Backlash. Now this weekend they will be in Bash at Berlin. Good evening. Welcome to The Shoot here on Diamond Podcast Productions on YouTube, and of course Pro Wrestling World Talks on Spotify and Apple. I am your host, Daniel Burke, and I am joined this evening by my hetero life mate, Mac, and my co-host of this great program.
Are you going for like a Captain Kirk right now, bro?
Yes, I am. I am going with the delayed responses.
Okay.
Votes!
It was between that and the rapid change of volume in the voice that I was just like, wait a minute, this feels very Shatner-esque.
I have come to talk about wrestling here on The Shoot. We will talk about Bash at Berlin. New character, Shatner talking about wrestling. I
know there are sound bites.
Seen the story.
Grab for that.
The story of Cody Rhodes. And I asked myself, what about the bloodline? What about Roman? Khan.
Khan!
It's like because Shatner is also, I put him in the same category of a Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Their acting ability, yeah. But at the same time, they just have a great presence and also have been in some fantastic, like, they have more personality than some of these no-name people that I see now in some of these fucking movies where you're just sitting there and you're like, who is this guy? Like, where did he come from? And then somebody reminds you, like the age of the movie star. Like, can you name a star in the last decade, like a male actor that you've been like, yeah, he's really good? Like, so maybe like Tom Holland or a few others, but a lot of them are just like no-name people. You're just like, who are you? Where do you come from?
It's hard to say.
Why am I supposed to care?
It's hard to say that though, because I feel like the last 10 years, probably going into the last 20, obviously, until probably 4 or 5 years ago, is so inundated with comic book movies.
Yes.
And
I don't know who these people are.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's just like, okay, I know Tom Holland. I knew RDJ from before. I knew Chris Evans from before. I didn't know Chris Hemsworth before Thor. I knew Natalie Portman, but still, I really didn't know Kat Dennings very much. Like there's obviously a plethora of other actors or actresses that I could name, but at the same token, it's just like ever since.
And don't forget the greatest actress ever, Brie Larson. Like, we got to throw her in there.
I mean, at least she didn't shit the bed, but you know.
That's the thing. It's like a toss-up between the both of them. It's like, because she hasn't shit the bed. She also didn't accuse Johnny Depp of abusing her, and then get found in court that was all bullshit. But she's just as hateable. Like, I don't get it. Like, anytime I see her, I'm like, ugh. Just immediately change the channel.
You know what it is for me? I could sum this up very quickly, ironically enough, and it's going to be somewhat insulting to both of them. But she reminds me of a female Michael Cera. She only plays one type of character.
Yes.
And that's it. There's no like emotional range that convinces me that she is actually emotional in that scene.
And I believe she's an Academy Award winner, if I'm not mistaken. She's
you're right.
won an Oscar. And she has zero range. And the fact is that when people escape movies, especially men, they escape movies, especially superhero movies and that type of stuff. And one of your top female superheroes has constant resting bitch face. It's an immediate turnoff. It's like, really, like, you're making how much movie? They're giving you an intellectual property. They have all this faith in you. Yet you look like you can't be bothered to even be involved in any of this. That's why Captain Marvel didn't do well. That's why the Marvels didn't do well, because they casted somebody that was so unlikable that the audience was just like, I don't want to even be involved. So that's kind of where Brie Larson stands at. But I also look at like the Black Widow movie, where I know who Dakota Johnson is, not because of the 50 Shades series or whatever the fuck that is. Never seen them, never cared to. But when you're the daughter of Melanie Griffith and the incomparable Don Johnson, it's just you have the pedigree, so to speak. And so it made sense when I'm just like, and then all of a sudden, but then everybody's talking about the Sydney Sweeney girl, and I'm just like, again, who is this? Like, who are you? Where did you come from? Like, why are you in a Marvel movie all of a sudden that's actually getting like attention? And then you see her in other projects, and you're just like, where the hell have I been? Like, where is this woman been? Like, where does she come from? Like, how did that happen? Like, either because there's just too much content out there, or everybody is just, because I don't know, like all of a sudden it's just like overnight. Oh, and then Sydney Sweeney also with Black Widow. It's like, who the hell is this? Where'd she come from? What am I watching? Why is she here? Surprised you're not playing that clip. It's a perfect role for it.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what is that?
Exactly. What is that? What the fuck am I watching? Why is she in this? Who is this girl? I don't know who she is. And, but again, it's like that's the generation that we're at, or either it's my old age or whatever.
I was going to say, like, I think it's because we're both old curmudgeons at this point.
Yes.
We're just
like,
who?
We're we're literally the puppets in the balcony in the Muppet Show. Yep. That's us. That's literally what age we have reached. That's us. And I'm fine with it. That's how I pretty much live my life now as a wrestling fan. And it's come to the point of view now where it's like, I watch a lot of like Red Letter Media and that type of stuff. And now it's like I've entered their age group. So I'm like, oh, yeah, so now I could just start talking about when things were somewhat better. Because we grew up on different eras, and we also grew up on different, tastes of film back then, where you would know side characters from movies that, like, no one in their fucking right mind would watch now or get, like, a theatrical release. Because the video stores back then, and then HBO, it wasn't like the Time Warner, because it wasn't under Time Warner back then. It was just HBO. So HBO, yeah, they would have maybe 5 good movies on rotation, but the rest were gutter, utter trash, some of it. Some of them were good. Like, you'd get the rare random gem where you're just sitting there and you're like, this is fantastic. And then the other times you would just
on those movie channels, by the way, it's still.
I figured it wouldn't be, because you look at you look at what Max has, like, as far as like for a streaming property, and for everything that they have at their disposal, and not just not just what HBO has been able to come out with original programming and things of that nature. You're talking Cartoon Network. You're talking so many different branches now.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, but as again, I've been going through a lot of items of David's, my brother. And so, of course, the movies came up in discussions. And also me just going through boxes and all that stuff. Where I'm finding movies that he either influenced me or I found on my own. Like I found Dead Heat with Trent Williams and Joe Piscopo. And there is an entire generation that literally just went, who? Joe Piscopo was on Saturday Night Live in the early 80s with Eddie Murphy. It was like him and Eddie Murphy. That was it. Everybody else was trash. And so he was on the show, stayed there for a little bit, and then was in some films. He had somewhat of a respectable film career. And then there's Trent Williams, who died a few years back. But it's still like one of those random movies that you would have seen on Cinemax, Showtime, the Movie Channel, or HBO back then. And half those things people were just like, again, what is Cinemax and the Movie Channel? Well, they were properties that were under they were like the sister stations of Showtime and HBO.
I think Cinemax is still around, actually.
Cinemax, I'm sure, is still, well, it kind of is too with Max. You know, it's still
true.
You know, like it's always there. But the Movie Channel is something that I think people probably are just sitting there and you're like, what the hell is this? I mean, but also Cinemax still is, I think for their other name that they were called, still people call it.
Yup.
The other thing that people call it is still going to be in our vernacular till the day we die. Just because of the fact that before the internet, folks, you had to watch Cinemax late at night. That just rite of passage back then. If you had and the fact too that it was like you had to sometimes wait when it was a free preview because your parents were just like, I'm not spending more money. Because that's how the cable company back then, it was like, it wasn't like packages, right? Where you get like 10 or 15 channels.
Hold on. We already talked about this a couple of weeks ago, probably a couple of months ago at this point, that both our families had black boxes back in the day.
Yes, that's true.
What you're doing here is illegal.
Quite well, statute of limitations.
I agree, but
they're gonna go back. They're gonna go back 20 years and be like, "Oh, really? Like, come on."
No. But I was more going for the movie reference that you like.
No, that's
one.
fair.
But
that's fair.
Yeah. So for those that didn't have access to it, whether it be through the illegal means or obviously those parents that didn't want to spend the money on it, obviously, yes, as Dan said, they had to wait for those previews. Because it was like a Game Pass almost, where they'd give you like a free weekend of Cinemax or some of these other movies channels back in the day. And yeah, I remember those for some of my friends back then that did not have the means of watching it on a regular basis. Just, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And obviously, they were like teenagers at this point, maybe a little bit younger. Cinemax is free this weekend. Like that was it. Everybody knew. They're like, okay, fuck it. He's not going around.
Well, I guess he's not leaving the house.
Yep, exactly.
Not at all. Sleeping all day and just going out and just being up all night. We know why. It's fine. He just comes in. He comes into school on Monday. His eyes are all bloodshot. He's just like, I haven't slept in 3 days.
He looks like Quagmire in that one episode with the gun down arm.
I'm gonna get the mail.
You okay, Quagmire?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found that Cinemax.
Found that. Yes.
Yeah, it was always interesting too, because I remember conversations I think that we used to have, and I definitely had it with some other people, of ECW going to HBO or Showtime on why it never happened. Just because of the fact that it had such a solid base, especially in the pay-per-view business, because they were doing probably comparable numbers to what AEW is doing now. But they were also doing better numbers than WCW was in 2000, which is almost unheard of. But also, you look at the state of that company back then.
Exactly.
But they still had a very solid base where you think HBO, because they had the production with boxing, both of them did. You'd think that both of them would have been competing for this company, that anything went. Like, it's exactly what you want for Cinemax, hardcore TV, or not the hardcore TV they play later on. I'm discussing, folks. But you'd think like having it being able to be a property on that company, and just because I always thought it could have worked, because then you have this, but at the same time, you have Paul Heyman behind it, so anything really would have went. Paul Heyman and Opie and Anthony are the only two entities I could think of that at any possible time in their careers, this could be the last day that they're with. I don't know. I can't say that about Paul now, because Paul, I think, is definitely more stable, more mellowed out. And plus now he's just more of a character instead of just a creative personality. But there was a period for about 12 or 13 years where Paul Heyman would not only carry the gasoline, but the book of matches, and at any point was ready to set fire to anything.
Yep. And
it was the same thing with Opie and Anthony. So I can understand also channels not going the direction of, yeah, this is a guy we should put our faith in to run this property here on our network. Even though that he would probably produce solid numbers. I mean, because you think about it with what they were doing anyways, with pushing the envelope with The Sopranos, I always thought it would have made sense. And I talked with other people, and they felt the same way, which makes it interesting now that Warner Brothers Discovery, which also owns Max, is still in the pro wrestling business, but now with a company that was born kind of out of the brainchild of like a higher budget ECW, but has made a tenth of the impact. Maybe in people's wallets, but not so much as far as like creativity.
I think they've made an impact. It just hasn't been a sustained impact.
That's true. No, that's more of a fair assessment. It's
like when
COVID
because again,
I couldn't really, I can't really can sit here and tell you that they have been crap like their entire entity, because they haven't. So I'm not gonna like completely crap on them too much, because I feel like enough people, like, it's almost become the cool like the cool or not cool thing to do, to just bash them. Everybody's just piling on, and which is fine. I mean, because I feel like they've asked for it with the way that their fans have behaved, and the way that Tony Khan has said certain things. But at the same time, it's like it's almost like low hanging fruit. Like it's a piñata at this point. It's like everybody's taking a shot at them. So I feel like that just me sitting here and taking shots at them all the time, but just like, really, you're joining in on the fun? It's like, no, I was one of the guys stationed over here 5 years ago. I'm just kind of looking over now and seeing that the deer tents have grown immensely. There's 17 claymores over there when I only had one. And, but that's besides the point. But yeah, this all started with, of course, God, I love how we just go on these tangents where we were just talking about actresses and people that we've never heard of before. And we were just talking about Cinemax growing up, and then about ECW going to Showtime or HBO.
Hey, it's natural
in the early
progression.
2000s. It is natural progression. It all circles back to where it needs to be with pro wrestling.
Exactly.
As of today, June 13th, 2024, the Boston Celtics have a 3-0 lead over the Dallas Mavericks. So, of course, I am wearing my Kevin Garnett jersey, as last week I wore my Larry Bird jersey. And now they're 3-0. So the big question is, are they going to be able to finish it off? Most likely, considering the fact that of a 3-0 lead, blowing a 3-0 lead in the NBA Finals is almost unheard of. Trust me, though. It's possible, though, that a team could blow a 3-0 lead. I've seen it on both ends. I've seen it with the Bruins blowing a 3-0 lead, and the Red Sox coming back from a 3-0 lead against the Yankees in 2004. So, is it possible? Yes. But if you ask my honest opinion, I think Dallas is done. If you look at Luka Doncic the other night, fouling out with 4 minutes to go in Game 3, when you came back from a deficit of at least 20 points. I believe it was as high as 21 at one point, and then they got it down all the way to like 4 with Luka, and then Luka fouled out. They got it close to 2 points. They closed the gap. But in the end, they couldn't do it because of the fact that two guys cannot carry a team, meaning Kyrie and Luka.
Yep.
But you look at the Celtics, where they have Drew Holiday, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, who both combined last night for 61 points.
Yep.
You have Al Horford as well, playing more of a bigger role because of Kristaps Porzingis and his injuries that he's been dealing with. And the fact that they're doing this without Porzingis is also astounding. But at the same time, you can't discredit what Kristaps has done for the organization and for the team this year and helping us get here, because he was one of the contributing points, and Drew Holiday, because this team needed those holes filled. They needed another big. They got him. They needed another solid and actual point guard instead of a role player that was Marcus Smart. And I love Marcus Smart, but he was a role player at best. Good defender, but he couldn't shoot.
Oh, he was a facilitator.
That was it.
We've talked about it. He
that works.
Handled the ball and threw it up. That's it.
That works, but at the same time, Drew Holiday is just as good as a defender. Well, maybe not as good as a defender, but still very solid. But also has a much better game offensively.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're going to rank the two of them, I still think Drew Holiday is a facilitator as well, but you can trust him better with the ball than Marcus Smart.
That pass to White last night from right under the basket. I'm oh my, there is a small percentage of guys in the NBA that can make that throw. And Drew Holiday is in that category. And Derek White has been money.
Oh God, yeah.
Just money.
The pass that Tatum had to Jaylen Brown, I think it was Game 2, if not Game 3. I forget at this point. My days have blended together. Behind Kyrie was just had Kyrie looking all over the place, like what the hell just happened?
That was sick.
Yeah,
that was a cool moment. He just drains the three right in his face, and I'm just like, yeah, that's right. You take it.
Yep,
you take
exactly.
It. You take this. You take this, and because look, I was on the Kyrie and Boston train. I was like, all right, this could work.
I wasn't.
I know you weren't, and I give you credit
because I was right.
Time, but I give the Celtics credit for at least trying, because that was the thing. They were so pedestrian and conservative with how they used their picks and all that stuff. But don't get me wrong, they were able to get in back-to-back drafts. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum at the third pick. So they did something right. But I felt like, take a chance to see how it goes. And it didn't work. But in the end, it's not like we blew the whole thing up, because we still had a solid core. we got rid of him. He left on his own volition. Fine. The stuff that came out afterwards, I'm glad it wasn't here. I'm, and his stuff is probably, and everything he did to Lucky and stepping on it and flipping off the fans, he's going to have to live with it if they lose in 4.
0-13 since then.
Yeah, it's just, he's going to have to live with that. And he's just going to have to sit there and say, that was an immature moment and something that's going to haunt me. Because there's just certain things you don't do. And especially when you're a Brooklyn Net, because you've never been to the dance before as a franchise. Yeah, you've been there when Jason Kidd was there. But you were going up against teams that were like buzzsaws. You're going up against the Lakers one year, and then the next year you're going against Tim Duncan and the Spurs. And all you have is Jason Kidd. Your ass is going to get smashed, and that's exactly what happened. And you teamed up with Kevin Durant, and then you guys get James Harden, and you couldn't do shit. You couldn't do anything. And it also shows how poorly on Durant's legacy, because look what he's done in Phoenix. Nada. The only time that Kevin Durant has won anything in this league is when he went to Golden State. And he could have been a Boston Celtic and could have probably been the charge of all the, like, because that's the thing. The Celtics got all these picks. Durant could have come here. They could have won sooner because they would have had Durant.
Yep.
But then you would have had Durant, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum.
Yep. And the bench that they have, too.
And the bench that they had. But they wouldn't have gotten Kyrie because that wouldn't have just, everybody would have just been like, yeah, there's no way we can do this.
But I mean, hold on. Would anybody have complained about that?
No.
I would have rather Durant than Kyrie.
I would have taken Durant in a heartbeat, and I thought that was a legitimate possibility. And then
I think a lot of people did that year.
Yeah, because everybody, like Tom Brady, was trying to court him to come here.
Yep.
Like they legitimately tried to get him. And the only option, the only way I would have taken Kevin Durant not coming to the Boston Celtics is if he stayed in OKC. I would have been fine with that.
Yeah.
Because then it would have been like, he's trying to establish something there. It's his home base. And I can't hate somebody for wanting to stay in the small market. But Durant decided
it's the West.
Exactly. It's like, I would have understood, okay, yeah, stay there. I get it. But he had to go to Golden State. Yep. And Stephen A. Smith said it was one of the weakest moves of a superstar ever. And he's 1,000% right, because you think of what Kevin Durant has done since leaving Golden State. No finals appearances. I don't even know if they've made a conference final. I think they've made at least a conference final or two, either the Nets or the Suns. But how many times that they've built this team around him, they put everything around him, and nothing. Nothing. But Booran. So tomorrow night, the Boston Celtics could get banner 18. I'm hoping they do, but at the same time, it'll either, if it's not tomorrow night, it'll at least be game 5 will be in Boston. And that's what they call the gentleman's sweep of they win one game at home, but they're able now to win at home. So either the sweep or the gentleman's sweep will take it. I think, yeah, you want the sweep, but if you win it in game 5 in Boston, I think that'll be cool too. As long as it doesn't go 7.
Oh God. Yeah.
As long as it doesn't go 7.
Yeah. I hope so too. That's all I'll say.
Even
I don't want
6,
game
even
7.
6, I'm like, yeah. I'm going crazy.
Yep.
But 4 or 5, if they lose game 4, I could be like, okay, 5. But if we lose game 5, then I'm like, oh, wait. Don't pull this shit now. But I'm hoping anyways that tomorrow night's it, or at least early next week.
Yep.
And luckily, we do not have to. It does not coincide with any wrestling events this weekend. So
Thank God.
that's a good thing. Yeah, because then that would be. I mean, even if you're AEW though, because then you're sitting there and complaining about, oh, we had to compete with the NBA game, the NBA that's always on for 6 months out of the year, and also with the playoffs and the finals. Because, I mean, I just think it's a lame excuse where you're just coming, like, okay, so everybody, so 100,000, 150,000, they're going to watch the NBA that's on every single week instead of watching your program.
I
Wouldn't
think
that
in
affect
some
the ratings the
markets-
whole year? Like,
yeah, well, the thing I was going to say is I think in some markets, they even have to face the baseball teams, too. And in the hockey
Yeah.
teams.
I mean,
because we talked about this before once where a lot of those regional SNs are kind of dying.
yes.
And I think a lot of them, especially in the past, would go to Turner, whether it be TBS or TNT, to air those games. So it's not out of the realm of possibility where some of these, depending on the market they live in, is still going to miss AEW for that week live.
I think, too, that might be the direction, because, like, you look at a lot of these networks are just, like, especially original programming. How many networks... I don't know if TNT does anything original anymore, like as far as like original programming, like series, that type of stuff.
Not that I can think of off the top of my
Because
head.
I think because TBS used to a lot.
Used to, yeah.
I remember when they had like the Bill Lenvall show and a couple others, like just random shows, and then it just stopped. Then they just stopped at some point. Now it's just like you go to those networks and it's either sports or it's something out of the catalog under syndication, like Friends or Big Bang Theory and that type of stuff. Which Big Bang Theory usually gets a rating anyways, because it's so funny looking at the numbers when it's like, oh, their lead-in was like 1 million or 900 something thousand, and then when the first 15 minutes they dropped to like 720.
It cracks me up when you told me that the first time, like over a month ago. I was just like, there's no way old reruns of the Big Bang Theory are pulling that kind of number.
Yeah.
And then you tell me that this significant drop off from the Big Bang Theory to the lead into AEW, and I'm just like, oh man, people must love their Big Bang Theory or something, man, because
it's just one of those. It's just, I think it's just one of those shows that, and I don't think I've sat and paid attention to one episode. I think it's been on the background, but I've never really paid attention to it. And there's a lot of shows that are like that I never really paid attention to it. It's on in the background. I just don't pay attention. We should probably get into some wrestling.
I mean, listen, we're about 30 in, and that's kind of the norm for the opening, so I wasn't going to say anything. All right, so I figure we start with last weekend, considering there are 2 pay-per-views in a row for WWE, if you include NXT. So this past weekend, we had NXT Battleground in Las Vegas.
UFC,
Yep, UFC Arena. Yep.
So weird.
Yeah, it is.
Seeing that.
It is.
It's like, oh, we're under the same umbrella now? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It is kind of strange. Pretty good pay-per-view for what we got out of it for an NXT show, which I know some people kind of shit on sometimes because it's the developmental brand. It's a good show.
Yeah. They've really kind of upped their game severe. Like, it's amazing how two and a half years ago this brand was like on death's door because they had went to like that neon color, and that was around the time that Vince and some other people decided to strip it to the studs, which there is one thing I'll give them though. When they did that was they did push Braun Breaker almost immediately, which if you look back on that now, where you look at Braun Breaker and his development, where that guy's going to be a player. Like, he's going to be a big time, massive player. I feel like that they have. Yeah, he's gotten some character work, especially with Baron Corbin. But I also feel like now that they have just made him this like legitimate threat, where you can sit there and say, okay, yeah, you can put him you can build him up to like be somebody that's pretty dominant and he's young. So you have this guy with his pedigree and this athleticism and the ability to maybe be like, all right, this is the direction we can go. So you almost have to sit there and say, okay, well, they were right on Braun.
The thing about Braun is you could make him into a very, very like character, to a Brock Lesnar.
Yes.
Where he is just this absolute freak, beast, whatever you want to call him. You could make that into Braun Breaker. And the fact that nothing against Brock, but I think in the ring, especially, Braun Breaker is probably that much more explosive than Brock was. He's got a little bit more speed than Brock did. And overall, I would love to compare those careers down the line when Braun Breaker is like in his 30s. What's up?
Yeah, no, I was just saying that Brock is deceivingly fast.
He is.
Like, he is deceivingly fast, and it's if you saw his combine numbers where he ran, I think he ran the 40 in like 4.6 or something. Like, just, and this is 290 something pounds of just all muscle, where you're just like, how is it even possible? Never played football in college, and he was the last guy cut by the Minnesota Vikings, like on training camp, where you're just like, just complete definition of just a stone cold killer athlete. I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah. I think Braun is going to be right up there with him, though.
I agree. He's got a chance.
He does, for sure. So I didn't really set the order, so it doesn't really matter how we talk about them this week. I feel like I'll just start on the actual order of the card. So that actually starts sort of in the middle. So the opening match was the ladder match to crown a new NXT Women's North American Championship, the new mid-card title for NXT WWE. Kalani Jordan, as you can see on the slide, won that one. It was against Sol Ruka, Lash Legend, Fallon Henley, Jada Parker, and Michin, whatever anybody wants to call her at this point. I don't care.
Well, I mean, there is something I do want to call her, but I don't want to get demonetized.
I think that Rhea Ripley would get mad if you called her that. Because it's probably a similar to that moniker.
Ron Burgundy used it, so.
I'm just going to shut my mouth and not try to figure that out right now, because that's going to go left real fast. This was a good match for what we got out of it, though. I was pleasantly surprised.
Ladder matches are tough now because you feel like that everything that has been done has been done.
True.
So it's just a lot of this is kind of rinse and repeat. But at the same time, it does know how to pop a crowd. It visually does look amazing at certain points. So, and you can still find ways to be creative where you're just like, oh, okay. And also limiting it, like as far as a matchup is concerned, because the last thing you want to do is just like have 12, like 3 ladder matches a month or something of that nature, or like something that AEW did.
I want to ask you, though, somewhat related to the match, but a little bit less so. You mentioned something about B. Chen, so it's going to be kind of related to her. I kind of noticed it both at the pay-per-view and on NXT this week. I didn't watch it, but I caught the highlights. How are you feeling about Michen's new look? Keep it PC, Dan.
I mean, look, it's definitely opened my eyes. I mean, where you're like, oh, hey, I'm glad that she's getting
TV time.
TV time.
Yeah.
Maybe not this. Maybe not the sense that she expected. Where you're just like,
true, but
just,
the OC is already there. You put her with them since it's still the OC technically, and they're all three of them are on TV. So I mean, you can't complain too much if you're a fan. Yeah, it sucks it's not on Raw or SmackDown, but I mean, it's something.
The thing about it is that, and I understand where, because there's still that aspect that people probably have of like, well, but we're not trying to sensationalize. We're trying to make it more about athletics and things of that nature. But sometimes
other things work.
Yeah.
I'll bottom that for you real quick.
Yeah,
oh man,
they just work. It's just, hey, yeah. But no, I like her. I like her use on television.
No, I think it's working. Having her less as a sympathetic character, more as a cringy heel, I'll say it that way, seems to work better for her. All right, so the next match in the card was the NXT Tag Team Championship match. The OC, the Good Brothers, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, against Nathan Frazer and Axiom. And as you can see on the slide, Axiom and Nathan Frazer retain the titles.
Not surprised. It was kind of like a toss-up, but I wasn't surprised with the outcome in the least.
For me, once Michin lost the first match, it was pretty clear, cut and dry that OC was going to lose this one.
Right.
For some reason, I was just like, I feel like if she's not winning, they're not winning. So
right. No, it completely made sense.
Yeah, Axiom and Fraser are fun to watch. It's just
they are.
It's just the Good Brothers. I felt like in this match were almost destined to lose. It's kind of like watching New Catch Republic sometimes.
Right.
And it's just like, oh, okay, unless the heels are bruisers, they're probably just going to lose to them.
Exactly.
So, all right. Next matchup is the NXT Underground match. Lola Vice defeating Shayna Baszler by referee stoppage. Ooh. The only thing I hated about this match was the referee stoppage.
I mean, Lola Vice has just got all the ability to be a star.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, so it's especially with the MMA background as well. And she's like 24, 25. Like
yeah, she's young.
Yeah, she's gonna be another one where you're just gonna be like, oh yeah, like this one could be a problem as far as trying to keep her in this company because it has that look of Hollywood where you're just like, cripe. Should be doing action movies for Christ's sake in 5 to 10 years, and we'll be like, oh, great, another talent just left our company again, and now we have to scrape up from the bottom.
I mean, I was surprised she didn't get drafted, honestly.
Yeah, I was surprised because you look at her and you're just like, she belongs like on the bigger stage. Like she looks like somebody that belongs on the bigger stage. Like she has a star look. And I'm not saying Shayna doesn't either, because Shayna, I feel like Shayna is an excellent wrestler, like fantastic, and with her MMA background too, where I almost was like, why doesn't Ronda have that ability? Like Shayna has that ability, but she doesn't have like the, I'm not knocking Shayna, but she doesn't have like that glamour look that others are going to look at with like a Tiffany Stratton or something of that else. But she also has that ability to just turn people into pretzels very quickly. And the ability to make everything look real and legitimate. And sometimes you need to be able to have that on your roster. And she's done that for a very long time. And I always feel like, too, with her, it's like, I feel like this is incomplete because I feel like you should be getting more like on the upper. You should be in like the main event more, or you should be challenging for the title more. I almost feel like she's just been like mid-card hell for so long. And also she's going back to NXT where at one point she was dominating that women's division and she's losing again to up and comers. So it's like, what direction is she in? Are you going to try to make her legitimate more? Or is she going to be like passed off into the sunset at one point?
But isn't that somewhat the nature of the business, though? At some points, in your
it is, but I feel
not
like
Shayna's career, but those like
I feel
Angle and Taker and Triple H and guys that had paid their dues, had been there for a while. They almost have to put over that new talent. I don't know if I put Shayna in the category of those others. Not to say she's not talented, but I just feel she's got more left in the tank.
I do too. Which, she was Josh Barnett's blood sport over Mania weekend. So I mean, she was. They're letting her do other events if she wants to. Which, I mean, look what they're doing with Io Sky.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Yeah.
And then supposedly this weekend there's going to be an announcement made. They're going to be doing some work with Noah. Pro Wrestling Noah out of Japan.
Yeah.
So they're kind of also we'll be talking about TNA more later on in a few minutes, but we're in a weird time where I feel like a lot of these people who might not be getting consistent bookings in WWE, they might be able to go to other companies under the WWE like contracts or something, some arrangement where they're going to be able to go to other companies and actually do other things. And Shayna might be in that position.
Yeah.
But who knows?
I mean, listen, you kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier without saying it, but they're also part of a company with UFC now. So who's to say that Shayna doesn't do something in UFC? Is one of those people that can cross over.
I think she's too old maybe to be back there.
You say that, but who knows?
That's true. I mean, that's not it's not far off, I guess you could say.
Right. All right, so as I said, Lola Vice defeats Shayna Baszler by referee stoppage in the Underground match. The next match is the triple threat match for the NXT North American Championship. Obafemi retains against Wes Lee and Joe Kofi by pinfall. This match has so much going on.
We all knew Obafemi was going to win this thing too. It's just that he's another guy that just has like star all over him.
Yeah,
but I almost feel like he's getting like that Goldberg push, but they're actually trying to make Goldberg better.
I thought it was very funny that article you wrote for Wrestling Glory Days came out after I had said something derogatory about Bill Goldberg for probably the billionth time in my life.
No, I wrote the article because of what he said during the death of WCW.
I know why you wrote it, but still,
because it's just there's just certain things in life you just can't admit, and you can't go out on live national television and say that one time I was in the Georgia Dome against Scott Hall, and Scott Hall asked me what the fuck am I doing, and I looked at him and I said I have no idea. Like. That's what I
just felt like everybody knew that, though.
I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe that some guy on the national stage that's about to be anointed to be the guy in that company, in a major wrestling promotion, is going to admit that to one of the best workers in the company in the middle of a match. In the fucking Georgia Dome on the night that later on you're going to be challenging Hulk Hogan for the world title.
So hold on a second. So that's one story, right? There are a lot of Goldberg stories. I'll tell you that right now. I can think of two just off the top of my head. I believe William Regal, that he was not stiff with Goldberg, and that Goldberg just had no idea what he was doing. And I also believe DDP in the sense that it was their world championship match, that Goldberg missed a cue and didn't do something he was supposed to do, and it rattled DDP to a certain extent. I believe DDP there too. And I'll just say this, just for argument's sake, because I love to bring it up every time we talk about Goldberg, and you know where this is going. He absolutely fucked up on that kick against Bret Hart.
Oh, without question, it's not even a
Watch out for the boot.
debate. And
Fuck you, Bill Goldberg.
oh God. And then he almost paralyzed the Undertaker. Can you imagine if Taker got really messed up to the point, like the amount of he'd have to hire bodyguards. He would have to hire bodyguards just because there's just certain guys that you don't mess with. Bret Hart's one thing, right? But if he did something to Taker where Taker like ended up in a wheelchair, or he ended up like a paraplegic or something from him, the man would have had to hire a bodyguard. Because it's like you can't do that to two like absolute icons and just get away with it. And because I wanted to, like, because everybody at 15, 16, we all thought Goldberg was the man, without question. But as soon as he went to WWE, he was exposed. Like, I'm watching him and I'm like, he can't go more than 12. And 8's pushing it. And I'm talking about the minutes.
Oh, but that's because he breathes in his pyro smoke.
Oh, God. I hated that. Always hated that. Like when somebody would say that, like, oh, it's because he breathes. It's like, shut up. You really know nothing.
Like, whose fault is that?
Yeah, it's his.
Yeah.
Maybe if it hurts, you stop doing it. But apparently, but this is the same guy who bashes his head in against a locker and a door and give himself concussions before he even goes out there.
Oh, God. And then the limo.
And then the limo incident. Like because I want to believe that somebody in his position would have been responsible enough to say, I can handle this. I'm a good athlete. I was a football player. Because I thought it would have been an easy transition. But apparently not. Because this dude is he's completely reckless. He openly admitted that he had no idea what he was doing for the majority of his career. And this is a guy who was a highly paid star and one of the biggest icons in this industry for a period of about 2 years. 98, 99, Bill Goldberg was a household name as far as professional wrestling is concerned. And of course, WCW, the last year and a half of his career in that company, pretty much was a fucking joke. But that's because of the company itself. That's not all on him.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's not all on him. I would agree it's certain parts, but it was mostly the booking and rating decisions than anything else.
Goldberg uses the spear and jackhammer.
That's my okay. All right, Bill. Thank you, Mr. Shatner.
Spock.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so the next match is the last two matches, almost co-main events in my opinion in terms of their importance. The first one here is the NXT Women's Championship match. Roxanne Perez against TNA Knockouts champion Jordynne Grace. And I will say this before I pass it over to you for your thoughts on this, but I think WWE missed a huge opportunity by not booking Jordynne Grace to win this match. During this match, also, Jordynne Grace has shared pictures on social media of her rings getting ripped out, or earrings, excuse me, and being basically just all up in Roxanne Perez's tights. So there's that too, and she basically said, "So yeah, I'm not wearing my earrings anymore."
But harsh lesson to learn.
Yeah,
Like, that's gonna be hard.
I mean, dude, they were ripped out. If you saw the
I
pictures,
know. I did see the pictures. I'm like, I don't have piercings.
Me either.
So
yeah.
like, I've never really had to worry about like something like that getting caught and something like that's, oof, that just looks painful. You're kind of right. Actually, not kind of. I think you're 100% right. They did miss an opportunity because again, it will not hurt Roxanne Perez, but if she lost, but at the same time, it does also the finish was Dana Brooke coming out was just like, what the fuck?
Hey, that's Ash by Elegance.
Whatever. But it's certain people would say, oh my God, I can't get rid of her. Even when she's here, she's out of the company and she still comes back. Because certain people wanted to see her get fired in every release. And certain people was always disappointed. And then finally she got released. And certain people were happy. And I'm sure if they watched that show the other night, this certain people would probably,
Bring her back.
I could only
Bring her
imagine.
back.
Yeah, either bring her back or just be like, why? Why is she even out here? So,
I mean, she looks better than she has looked, in my opinion.
I agree.
I feel like, however, that's not exactly saying much.
It's not really saying much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like she went from being a Tampa stripper to a Panama City beach stripper. But it's. I thought the match was excellent as well, though. It's pretty much. If you saw social media with the video that Jordynne Grace did with Shawn Michaels, and I think with who won the North American Championship for women?
Oh, Kalani Jordan.
Oh, Kalani Jordan. Thank you. Yep. With Kalani Jordan and with Jordynne Grace. And then Shawn Michaels is just like 5 out of 5 stars. Of course, it was a real kind of dig at Meltzer. But at the same time, Jordynne Grace was on a social media thing with Shawn Michaels. And it has also pretty much been reported that it's pretty much a done deal. Once her contract is up with TNA Wrestling, she is going to WWE. And
can I just cut it for a second and just say this? Yeah. No shit.
No, it's not. I don't think there's a debate really in the end. Like there's no debate. I think that, she also knows the company that she should go to, and this is the absolute company that she knows she should go to, because they're going to treat her like a star. She's a star.
She's going to get
like
the Jade Cargill treatment.
She is going to get but she's a much better worker.
That's exactly what I was going to say next.
And you can make an argument that she's also a much better worker than Bianca Belair. And
I'm going to make the argument that she is a much better worker than 80% of that women's locker room.
It's a very true statement. And also, too, the thing about it is that if you watch her progression, this is all she's wanted to do.
Yeah.
She didn't want to do anything else. This is all she's ever wanted to do. And I've known about her probably since like the mid 2010s, probably like 2016, 2017. So I've always kind of known about her career. And again, it was another one that I was telling people, I'm like, you got to check her out. And again, kind of being a trendsetter in this industry, especially with women talent. I don't understand it. I told people about Bianca. I told people about Rhea Ripley. I talked people's ear off. I told people about Jade Cargill. I'm like, Jade's in the wrong company. She goes to the other company. She's going to be a huge star. Lo and fucking behold, like, And with the male talent, I still have that ability. But I feel like with the female talent, it's like I've known about people at least 5 years before the national stage knows about it.
The thing with women talent is there's still that, sect, I'll call it, of fans that don't see it as legitimate. And I think that's a huge problem too. And yeah, our generation especially might fall into that category because we grew up with freaking bra and panty and Playboy and all these other pillow fight matches.
Accurate statement, Mac. That is a very accurate statement. Because we were grown up on a completely different style, a completely different presentation, and there is a subsection of that audience that is still set in that way.
Yep.
And they're never going to change. That's okay, but at the same time, they've been outnumbered. Because now you not only have the men watching, you have the women watching. You have the girls, the little girls watching, because they're dressing up as Bianca Belair or Rhea Ripley or Bayley or Becky Lynch. They're all dressing up as of for Halloween. They're getting the action figures. They're not going to Barbie. They're going to WWE. And they're, even though WWE, it was funny when they got the Mattel deal at one point, and it was just when the Women's Revolution was starting, they actually had Barbie dolls of WWE. Like I think Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch and Charlotte were a few of them.
Yeah,
I think Asuka had one too.
She did, yeah.
But so they've been Barbie dolls at one point, but you have girls now. And because I've heard it all the time from people about that just can't stand Bianca Belair. And I don't know why. I've never had a problem with Bianca Belair. I don't think, because I think she's an excellent worker. I think she's also an excellent representative to the industry. Because the first time that I saw people dressing up as her, and they're doing like art for her at these signings and all this stuff, it's like, that's now, because she's going to inspire a whole new generation of talent. And she's going to inspire a whole generation of, and it's like that for a lot of the women talent now. Like, all the men were inspired by the Hogans, the Randy Savages, the Flairs, the Shawn Michaels, the Triple H's. But now you're going to have an entire generation of girls that look up to Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, Charlotte, Bayley, among others. And now they're going to go to wrestling school. Like, you look at Bayley's fan, that crazed fan, Izzy.
Yeah, who's a wrestler now. Yep.
She's an indie star.
Yep.
So she followed in that footstep. She wanted to keep going with it. And she did. Where she's actually pretty well known on the indies. And if she gets a big enough following and keeps at it, she'll probably get a spot at least in NXT.
I wouldn't be surprised at some point if that happens. 100%.
I mean, that's for all we know that'll be.
Well, we talked about natural progression earlier. That's natural progression right there. You know?
For all we know, though, Mercedes is trying to get that deal done for AEW, so who knows? Next week on Dynamite. Ugh.
Yeah, and they'll probably call her Little Bailey or some shit too.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to go back to Bianca for a second. You brought up a good point there that I just want to address real quick. And we had actually talked about it with John, actually, back around WrestleMania, that stars like Bianca Belair, and now that she's back, Naomi, now that they've signed her and are actually displaying her on TV, Jade Cargill, it's not only important just for the women aspect for it, but for the African American community that is looking for like that. I hate to say it this way, but it's the truth. This Black Panther-esque kind of superhero where they want people of color to be prominent.
Representative.
Representative, yeah. And you also see it with the LWO. With, last year Backlash was in Puerto Rico. I don't want to say it was the main event, but you had Zelina Vega versus Rhea Ripley. It even Clash, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, you have two Scottish stars that are essentially main eventing their genre with Drew McIntyre and Piper Niven. But the same applies to the race too, because you have these strong black female characters, and it can't be understated how important that is for that community. So it's not even the fact that they're female. You have stars like them. You have stars like Selena Vega, who represents the Puerto Rican crowd. You have all these different stars from different places or different races. And, again, as I said before, when we kind of launched into this tirade, it's very telling that, and you and I have had this conversation too, with certain shows, the women start to steal the show.
They have.
I said it for the Elimination Chamber that I felt the women's Elimination Chamber was that much better this past year. I feel like the women's Rumble was not better, but was definitely on par with the men's.
Yes.
So the fact that they can put on, whether it's a one-on-one match, a tag match, or these specialty matches, even the women's Money in the Bank, I feel like the last 2 years were very, very strong.
Yes.
Where it was either Io Sky or Liv Morgan, both matches were strong. And the one last year, I felt was very, very good, especially the ending with Io handcuffing Becky and Bayley at the bottom of the ladder to climb up over Bayley to get it. But all in all, yeah, I think it's the representation is important. That's end rant, so to speak.
No, I wouldn't say it's a rant, but you're right. I mean, I think now with women athletics, though, we're in a different kind of phase. Because you look at what Kate and Clark has done with the WNBA, which they're doing fantastic numbers, and fantastic numbers as far as an organization is concerned, which is great because you want this league to kind of be self-sustainable, considering the fact that the NBA has been paying for it. That was always the knock and the joke, but now there's an opportunity now because they have a marketable star that is somebody that they can lead the league with and try to make it something. And I've always said for women the last 5 or 10 years, especially in this industry, the more that they have taken women more seriously in professional wrestling, that this is their best way financially to make it. You want to make money in this industry, in the entertainment, sports entertainment, quote unquote, right? This is probably the business to go unless you're like an actual actress, where you're getting paid like a lot of money per film and that type of stuff. But if you're going to make more money than a NBA player, at least right now, especially the minimum, the downside, I think that is up to like $350,000 if you're working on the main roster. So, which it's a lot more money than like some guys were getting paid 20, 25 years ago.
Oh,
but
God, yeah.
Yeah, it's just some of the numbers you're hearing, you're like, what? I think
the minimum back then was like 75.
Yeah, it was something crazy
in like the 90s.
Actually, their downside, their downside was, I think, in the through the 80s and the 90s, your first contract was 10 dates. You were guaranteed 10 dates for $1,500. That was their opening kind of contract.
Listen, that's not a lot, but it's also not a lot by today's standard either.
Not a lot by today's standard, but at least and plus, this is before the days of, points, but
or rampant inflation for that matter.
Well, I'm talking about points before like percentages, where because Vince was really the first guy to not only say, look, I'm not only going to pay you for wrestling, I'm also going to pay you for your intellectual property because you're going to be on this action figure. You're going to be on this t-shirt. You're going to be on this lunchbox. And that's how Austin made a lot of his money in the 90s, because I heard he was making $1 million alone just in the Austin 316 shirts alone.
Yeah, his merch sales were crazy. And he still makes merch sales, for Christ's sake.
I know. And it's just...
It's like the NWO shirts, you know? They're still making money.
Probably you can put the NWO logo probably against like McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts, and people would be like, yeah, I know what that is. Like, it's just one of those images and things that
it transcends the genre.
It transcends the genre where people just know what it is. And they might not know exactly where it's from, but they know of it. And they're like, oh yeah. But also it could have a new meaning now, because anytime you wear an NWO hoodie, especially out in public, you'll always get get the wrestling fans that'll just be like, yeah, or like the nice shirt. And then you'll also get like the people that just leer at you, like, because they think that you actually want to start a new world order, not just the wrestling faction, but a legitimate new world order. Like, you're all for, so then they just think that you're just I just want to come in sometime with like a tinfoil hat and like an NWO hoodie and see where it goes.
I gotta be honest, if anybody ever did that to me, I'd probably be like, burn it all! Just to see the reaction at that point. What does that mean? What new world order? Burn it all!
Burn it all!
Oh man! All right, let's get back on track here. So the last match, the main event for NXT Battleground this past weekend in Las Vegas, was All Ego, Ethan Page, the comeback match from AEW to NXT.
The good Page,
the good Page, not the Millennial Cowboy, against champion Trick Williams for the NXT Championship. And as you can see on the slide, if you're not paying attention anyways, Trick Williams retains. All I gotta say, man, is welcome back, Ethan Page. Yeah, this
one match back, and already he's one match back, and already he's just like, all right, motherfuckers, I still got it.
Yeah,
like, it just he is probably. He has to be just thinking to himself now, oh my God, why didn't I just make this move a couple of years ago? But at the same time, I don't blame guys in the last... If you sign with AEW in the last 18 months and you want to get out of there, you're dumb.
Well, look at Ethan Page.
Yeah.
If you're sitting there and your contract is about to be up and you know you have a talent in yourself, I'm saying... You have to look at Ethan Page's match against Trick Williams and say, maybe I should call WWE.
Exactly.
You just have to. He is back barely a month, and he is in the main event of their third brand's PLE. That's huge. Lexus King or Brian Pillman Jr. came back. Sorry. He came back, and he has not been in a main event. But Ethan Page, he's in the main event.
Well,
that's not to say he won't be, but go ahead.
Well, it's. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It also says with Ethan Page, you know, he had more of a reputation. He was a main event guy, a top talent in TNA or Impact at the time.
Yep.
Whatever. If I say TNA, I also mean Impact.
Yeah.
Because I don't want some asshole to.
They've changed back and forth. Whatever.
Shut up.
Hold on, I got something for that as usual.
Shut up, bitches.
But at the time, Ethan Page was one of the most talked about guys in that company, and then he decides to go to AEW. And I'm like, you know what? But you know, that was also when I felt like there was more room for him to grow. Like there wasn't just a lot of this established main event talent that he signed from other companies. And he had room to grow. And there was more of a ceiling for him to kind of grow through instead of just being kind of stuck where he's been, stuck in neutral. The same thing can be said when they moved him over to Ring of Honor. I'm like, this poor guy is just rotting away. And now he's not. Like, he's in a good spot. I think that they treat him like a star. He looked like a star. So they're going to continue. They're going to continue to think that this guy he's got all the tools. He's somebody that they wanted a couple of years ago, but he decided to go to AEW. But now he's finally got that chance. Brian Pillman Jr., he might get there. I don't know. I think with him, it's going to be but he's also never been treated in a main event level. Like, he's always been underneath, mid card, but now he's on that stage of, okay, like, let's give him a shot and see what he can do with his character work. I think he's done well. So I think.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. No. I'm awesome.
Okay, so I do not disagree, first of all. Let me throw that out there now. But the reason I wanted to kind of interject here is this. So separate and apart from the PLE, this was a great match. I really, really big on Ethan Page regardless before this. He was definitely underutilized in AEW. He was big in TNA/Impact. Cover it that way. But I think this match is booked well in advance. Just saying. Ethan Page is not going to win a world title, even if it is the NXT title, on his first PLE, or really his first match even back. Right. But this past week, this Wednesday, we record this on Thursday, so yesterday, I'm not going to do a full recap of NXT, but this part is interesting. So next week, there's going to be a 25-man battle royal. This was announced by NXT special guest, WWE Undisputed Champion Cody Rhodes.
Whoa!
25. Whoa! He announced it to Trick that his next opponent will be the winner of that 25-man battle royal at NXT next week, and that this could also feature superstars from different locker rooms. Mm-hmm. That is how it was phrased. I don't know the truth behind this. I almost feel like this is a rumor, but who knows, is that Matt Hardy will be one of the participants.
Well, also this coming Friday night, it is expected that Jeff Hardy will be joining Matt in TNA Wrestling as his contract with AEW has expired.
Correct.
And he is now a free agent, and it is expected that he will show up at AEW's at AEW. It is expected that he shows up at TNA's pay-per-view this weekend.
All right. So case in point, we already know from this past weekend, as we're talking about, Jordynne Grace obviously has a good faith deal with her contract in TNA to also work with WWE. It could be very well assumed that the same thing applies here, where Trick's next opponent could very well be somebody from TNA. We have no idea. Yeah.
Could be Moose. Could be Matt Hardy. Could
Moose
be Jeff
has
Hardy.
expressed interest.
Could be Joe Hendry.
Could be anybody. Listen, it could be somebody from Raw or SmackDown. We have no idea. And that's what makes this interesting. Because even though
Enrico Palazzo comes out, and like, oh my God!
I'd love
Enrico Palazzo!
Dude, I'd love fucking like Santino to come out of retirement for this match.
Oh my God, it would be great.
It would be. Just brings out the Viper.
TNA, so that could happen.
Yeah, just brings out the Viper.
Mr. Kennedy comes out. Kennedy! But also that could mean you're looking at what Shinsuke's done. Shinsuke could also show up on Tuesday.
So one of the articles I pulled,
done much really at all.
One of the articles I pulled for the scroll is we're going to talk a little bit about that because I think that is a very important topic we should talk about. Is the underutilization of certain superstars.
Yes.
And Shinsuke is definitely one of them. But that's it for NXT Battleground. Any other thoughts, Dan?
No.
All right.
Other than I'm glad they run the ratings war this week. Congratulations.
Yeah, I think we might talk a little bit about that later. But yeah, this listen, for a developmental or third brand, this was a great PLE. All of them are great matches. Some of them I obviously had more interest than others, but that does not take away anything from the other matches.
Right.
So that's week 1, NXT Battleground, and then the very next week, this coming Saturday, since we're recording on a Thursday night, is WWE Clash at the Castle in Scotland. Obviously, we don't know the placement of the matches yet, so we'll just kind of go top, left, down, and then to the right. So for the Intercontinental title, they've kind of been building a storyline for this. We have champion Sami Zayn against Chad Gable. Do you think Chad finally crosses the threshold, Dan?
Well, I mean, I always hate having to promise things. Like, for as far as signings are concerned.
Right.
Like, when you sign somebody, it's
my understanding is that the rumor is he is signed.
Yeah, that's a rumor.
Same with Natalia.
Almost that, but also there's no, like, they didn't have to promise Natalia anything.
True.
This, I feel like, because I do feel like it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to win. I do feel like it's pretty much it's in the cards that he's going to win.
I don't. I think you can make the argument, but I'm not in the same boat of saying that, where it's like
I only say that
conclusion.
because it's just, I feel like for them to sign him, they needed to make that guarantee. And that's the part where I'm disconnected on, because it's just, when you're a booker or you're somebody that's trying to deal with talent, you shouldn't have to make that promise to them, like, oh, you're going to win the strap here. No.
But so hold on. What if the promise in that case is you're going to lose to Sami Zayn, but in 3 months or something to that effect, whether it be at Bash in Berlin or at, say, Survivor Series, you're going to go against whoever the world champion is?
The only way that I would have him lose to Sami Zayn at this point is if he didn't resign.
Okay.
Because
hold on.
Re-signed him,
but forget about that for a second.
Yeah.
And look at the story aspect of it, the kayfabe of it, of saying, okay, well, Maxine and Cesaro are clearly unhappy. Maybe they interfere on Sammy's behalf. Maybe not on his behalf, but interfere so that Sami is able to win.
I mean, that's not a far off point. Like, I think that that's a fair argument, but at the same time, it's him losing again to Sami would devalue the amount of money you're going to start paying.
True.
And because he's lost so many times at this point, not only to Sami, but also to Gunther. So it's like, it's now or never. And if he's not going to stay, it's never. But if he is going to stay, you got to give him the strap. And again, it puts a sour taste in my mouth of, if that was part of his contract, then I wouldn't have wanted him. Like, just because it's just, number one, you're promising something that really doesn't exist. It's like, okay, so you want this, that you didn't actually win it. So we're going to give you this. And it's written in your contract that you have to have this. I mean, that's my point of view. I feel like it's very markish of I need to win this title for me to resign. I feel like you just have your head up your own ass, because it's just like, okay, why don't you go to the other company then and see if they value you? Because it's obvious I'm going to pay you a bunch of money. Yeah, I have plans for you, but I don't know if it's going to be right now that you're going to get the IC belt. But now you almost feel like it's like you have to give it to him, because he's lost so many times before. And, to keep him, you might have had to say, yeah, we'll give you the IC strap. So I think he's going to win. I think at this point, him losing would be detrimental to the amount of money you're going to pay him. And I feel like that the only way you're going to keep him is if you promised him that he was going to be IC champ.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like if you're going to promise something, it should be a world championship. It shouldn't be a mid-card title.
But he's probably going to, I wouldn't say he has that promise. I don't feel like anybody should get promised that.
Oh, I don't disagree with that either.
But I also, because he has the ability to carry that title, the IC belt. Does he have the ability to carry the world title? I don't know yet. But I think
talent-wise, he does.
Yes, he does. But I just, yeah.
It's tough. And we've talked about this the past few weeks. I feel like it's tough because the main event scene in WWE, regardless of the show, is just very crowded.
Very, very crowded.
And I feel like sticking a guy like Gable in there just makes it tough. And
it does.
It doesn't take anything away from him, but you still have other stories that are more impactful and other superstars that are more impactful as well, not just their stories, that it makes it very difficult. I feel like more so, especially on Raw, of course, because it's a 3-hour show where you have all this talent, and it's, I don't know. I think winning the IC championship isn't going to hurt either one. I feel like losing this match isn't going to hurt either one. But then what's the progression after that? Right. That becomes the question. So I'm going to come out and say that as much as I disagree with doing it, I do think that he is going to win. I do think Chad Gable's going to win.
Right.
But, yeah, it's an interesting conversation given the contract status of Chad Gable, because it's only a rumor right now. We don't know for sure if he has actually resigned. We're assuming he has. It would not, I feel like, make sense for Chad Gable to move, but we don't know that for sure. So the next match we'll go through is the Triple Threat Tag Team match for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. Champions Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill to face off against the Unholy Union, I guess is still their name, of Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, and the team of Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark.
Forgive me, I think it's Isla Dawn whose mother just passed away this week.
I believe you're right. Yes.
Which, tragic.
Yes. Yeah, hit by a car, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
And it was in Orlando, so
yeah.
Now you got to travel it's terrible, just awful.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder with that news story if they do something kind of heartwarming now because of this, because they have the out where Bianca and Jade don't have to eat the pin. It's a quick kind of like feel-good story moment, and plus you can do something quick down the line, or quick change later on.
I mean, listen, I got to jump in for a second. You mentioned it, and I had to just very quickly look it up. There's a lot more at stake than just that, though. You're not wrong, though, with that. Maybe they don't eat the pin. One of the stories that we talked about last week or a few weeks ago now is the fact that we still don't know 100% because we don't know Love in WWE. We don't watch that show on this channel. We don't know if Bianca is indeed pregnant. That was the rumor a few weeks ago. Obviously, at some point, they're going to try to build a feud for Jade and Bianca. Everybody knows
Not
that's
yet.
coming. Not
It's
yet, but it's
WrestleMania.
coming. It's coming. You can plant the seeds now. We mentioned Shayna Baszler earlier. I would not be disappointed for her to win a tag team championship, regardless of who it with.
Not at all.
That being said, I think Zoe needs something at this point. It's just we've talked about that. She needs something. You know, it's like ever since the whole Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch thing, it's like she hasn't done a lot.
What have you done?
Yep, nothing.
I've done nothing.
And then,
What would you say you do here?
nothing. The other factor is, as you mentioned, Isla Dawn's mother just passed away due to a car accident. Isla Dawn and Alba Fire are both from Scotland, which we'll talk about in later matches with talent originating from Scotland, as it were. So that's a big one too. Is both having, or being, I should say, excuse me, Scotland-based talents or originating from Scotland. That's a huge thing. We've seen that with Indy Hartwell in Australia, especially Rhea Ripley. If we go to some of these other places, we'll see it there too. Sami Zayn always gets a big pop in Saudi Arabia because he is of Arab descent. So you see stuff like that. And the one other thing I'll say about this match related to the unholy union of Alba Fire and Isla Dawn is that if we go back, I believe it was sometime last year, they lost the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships to Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey, and they were then combined and unified into the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. So there's a lot to unpack in terms of the implications of this match. To your point, yeah, you could have Bianca and Jay lose and look none the weaker since they don't have to eat the pin.
You don't know if that's the circumstances, if that's what they're going to do.
No, you don't.
My head tells me I'm 75% sure that Bianca and Jade are going to retain.
I'm in the same boat.
Like that's kind of the direction I'm going to go. It's 75% there, but there's a 25% chance that the Unholy Alliance pulls it off. But I'm going to go with my gut, and I'm going to go with Jade and Bianca retaining.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I am basically 3/4 in the boat of Bianca and Jade retaining, and then the remainder majority goes to the Unholy Union and then Shayna and Zoe. It just kind of makes sense. I feel like Alba Fire and Alba Dawn are not gonna hold it long if they win.
No,
but I also don't think they're gonna win anyways, as we said. So, all right. I think it's gonna be a good match, though. I
do too.
I hope to see some combo moves from Jade and Bianca again, because that one they displayed last PLE was money.
that was sick.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll see more of that. But hopefully you'll see it from all three teams. The next one, we have two Scottish-based wrestlers in the next two matches. So the first one is for the WWE Women's Championship. Scottish-based wrestler Piper Niven against champion Bayley.
I'm glad Piper's getting the shot.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Piper. And two, with the great work that she did with Chelsea Green. I never in my wildest imagination thought that a Chelsea Green and Piper Niven tag team was going to be.
That was not on my bingo card either. Yeah,
not on my bingo card, but turned out to be really, really good.
Yep.
Like both of them, they both really played off each other well. And plus, yeah, I've grown a new respect for Chelsea Green, which is something I never thought I would do.
Listen, her character work, the past.
Fantastic.
I'm not going to say the past. I'm sorry. Since she's come back, has been phenomenal.
Fantastic. Like it's because it's just it's like she's a combination of Vicky Guerrero, because she wasn't a wrestler, she was just like this figurehead,
Yeah.
but she is just like this complete nutcase of just screaming, and it's hilarious. But she's done a hell of a job as a character, and the same thing with Piper, where she's also just a fantastic wrestler as well. So I'm glad that she's been able to kind of get her due, get a championship match against Bayley in her home country. I don't expect her to win, though. I'm going with Bayley the whole way. Yeah, it's amazing how Bayley now is turned into like my girl, like we must protect. I never thought I'd be like somebody on that train of like, I like her.
I always did, but it was a situation where I just felt that she'd been a heel for a very long time at this point. And I think the face change was 100% necessary to keep the character vibrant. And credit to them for doing it when they did it. And I thought it was perfect timing to do it that way. So
I like the babyface character, but I liked it to a point because it
gets cringe after a while.
It gets cringe after a while. And the heel turn was fantastic. Was very well done.
It was.
Like a lot of the stuff that she did, especially with Sasha during the pandemic, she was one of the highlights of the pandemic era. So she deserves the credit for that as well. And so her getting this babyface run, I'm happy as hell for her. And her getting her due, I think, as a performer, because I've always said it's like everybody that she works with, she has a great match with. She's kind of like the Bret Hart almost, of just like being able to have everything structured the way it is, playing up to everybody's strengths and doing what she can do in the end as well.
Right.
So, but I see her winning here. I see it being really good, but I also see, like, I think there's no way you're going to beat Bayley now. There's no way. Like, I just feel like that she's too much of an on par baby face. I mean, she could lose the match realistically though too, and really not get hurt from it. And it's another hometown moment, because I'm not exactly sure if the other hometown moment is going to happen or not. If there's going to be something else that happens, we'll get to that in a few minutes.
Well, so hold on. You could say the same thing here though, because most likely Chelsea Green is going to be at ringside.
Yes.
Now, obviously, these two are I almost don't want to say well known, but character wise, yes, well known for kind of, I guess, messing up their outside interference. I guess I'll say it that way.
Yes.
So there's always that possibility that Chelsea tries and then gets banned from ringside, and then Bayley is able to win. But there's always that chance that lightning strikes, and now you have champion Piper Niven. To your point, however, I am in the same boat. I think it's going to take a lot for that to happen.
Right.
I don't know what the other match for the Scottish wrestler or warrior is going to hold, but I think for this one, I agree with you that it's most likely going to be Bayley.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. Yeah, I mean, I don't see anybody beating her, at least until like a major show. So, not saying that this is a major show, but I just don't see it happening right now. I could be wrong though.
I don't even know if I see her losing at SummerSlam. It just depends on who the feud and opponent is.
Exactly. It depends on who it is, because I feel like with her, it's like she's a strong enough baby face that she can carry it. Yeah, there's always the Charlotte factor, because Charlotte, I'm assuming, will be back within the next 3 or 4 months. So
she's due to go back to a heel, I feel like, too.
She is, but at the same time, she's also entering that category of like, even if she's a heel, people are going to cheer for her.
Yeah,
'Cause
no,
it's
I
like,
agree.
she's a quasi legend, you know? So, but I don't know. I definitely see Bailey retaining. Very, very slim chance I see Piper Niven winning it.
Yep. All right. So let's talk about that next match then. So again, we don't know the card, but we can make generalized assumptions that if this is not the main event, then the other match for the WWE Undisputed Championship would be, which we'll have to see. But considering it's in Scotland and we have the Scottish Warrior facing the champion for the World Heavyweight Championship, and that champion, of course, is Damian Priest of the Judgment Day.
Judgment Day has been banned from ringside.
Yes, so Finn Balor did not win that match this past Raw, so Judgment Day is, of course, as Dan said, barred from ringside. And a lot going on for the Judgment Day this week with hotel cards mysteriously disappearing, and Carlito saying that's cool, but Finn Balor turning around and saying that's not cool. Yeah, and then Liv landing on Dom. A lot going on for them this week.
Carlito not getting used to pyro. He's like, "What is this?"
That was hilarious. And he sold it so well.
He has done. Looks like he's having a blast. And plus two, he's probably just happy that he's like, well, at least I'm not in the LWO. I'm in like a main event program. You know, like,
he needs to be
with the
heel.
world champion.
I'm sorry,
he does.
But if you remember Carlito from his initial WWE run around the time of Evolution, he needs to be heel. He just does. He's a phenomenal heel.
I think that was one of my first. I remember when they made him a babyface. This is also when he was starting to. When I started to notice that he was more than like a character because he was doing stuff in the ring, I was really impressed with.
Oh yeah.
And I remember he was trying to do like a backflip one time, and Orton just fucking caught him with a sweet RKO. I was just like, and that might have been the first one that I saw where Orton just caught him on like a rebound, and I was just like, how the fuck did he pull that off?
Yeah.
And it's immediately just going like, and that was like the first one out of nowhere that I was just like, I love this guy. But it's good to see Carlito,
Caribbean cool.
Yeah. It spits in the face of people who don't want to be cool.
I loved it because back then he like just debuted and he beat Cena for the US title.
Yes.
And I'm like, yes! I hate John Cena. Yes!
I was actually there that night. I was in Boston. But I was there that night when he won it. And I was just laughing hysterically. But at the same time, that was also in a time we all liked John Cena at that point because he was still the doctor of thugonomics. It was before.
I think it was starting to be that change, though.
Yeah, we kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah.
We saw it coming because we knew it was coming. Probably, I knew it was coming when Brock left. I'm like, but then they made Batista kind of like Brock, so it was like, all right, this works. But you knew with the when they just seen all of a sudden like 1 year, he's not even on the WrestleMania card. The next year he's challenging for the U.S. title, and then but you knew after he won the U.S. title, you're like, okay, I know I can see where the trajectory for him is going to be, and it's probably going to be he's main eventing next year. And sure enough, a year later, he's world champion. You're like, ah, fuck.
Yep.
But no, it is good to see Carlito at least looks like enjoying himself. And there's so much going on right now with the Judgment Day, so there's that factor of them just completely fucking up and causing Damian Priest to lose the title, which again would make a tremendous story in everything that's going on with the Judgment Day and how much chaos is involved. Mommy's not there, so she's not able to control everything.
Yep.
So you have the boys pretty much running the show. Is Finn Balor and Liv Morgan together? Is Dom with Liv Morgan? Is Damian who can Damian trust? He brought Carlito in as almost just like, well, I'd rather it be you than Shady McDonough, which everybody I think is happy about that.
So hold on, real quick. I wanna call attention to that since we're talking about Carlito anyways, and we're talking about Judgment Day being barred from ringside. Does that then apply to Carlito since technically he's not a member of Judgment Day?
That's true. That's the thing. Like, that is a very interesting point because he's technically on the fringe, kind of like in the gray area. So yeah, that's a very good possibility. The thing with Drew McIntyre, I think the only person he has to worry about in that matchup, I don't think it's either gonna be Carlito or it's gonna be CM Punk.
That was the next thing I would have said. Yep.
Those are the two things I think he has to worry about.
Yes.
However, I don't know if CM Punk is going to want to cost Drew McIntyre the world championship, considering the fact that Drew McIntyre wants to beat him more than anything. So him goading him into a world title match early on might be more beneficial for CM Punk instead of costing him the championship for a second time and just setting up a random grudge match at SummerSlam with no stakes.
That's not true though, because Gunther is King of the Ring on Raw, so it's him facing whoever the champion is at SummerSlam.
That is true. So,
but it could be Bash in Berlin, but then I feel like Gunther should be in that match at that point.
Yes. So the question is that does Damian Priest hold on to the title until August? Or do you give the championship to Drew McIntyre where he loses it in August?
I'd say keep it for Survivor Series, honestly.
I feel like with Gunther, you have to make that switch at SummerSlam.
But and listen, like that's fine, but SummerSlam I believe was July, if I'm not mistaken.
No, beginning of August.
Okay, so when's Bash in Berlin? Is it before that or is it after that?
After. It's like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's tough then because there's that huge gap between Bash in Berlin and Survivor Series.
Right.
So that makes it a lot tougher.
My thought process would be, plus he wins the title, you can have it lose the title at Bash in Berlin. Even I don't think they'll do that.
I don't think so either.
Yeah. I want to say Drew McIntyre because it's his homegrown, it's his hometown, all this stuff. It's his home country, essentially. And him winning it there, especially the fact that he didn't win at the last Clash of the Castle. So automatically now it's just like, okay, him winning makes the most sense. But a one-on-one match with CM Punk at SummerSlam also would carry a hell of a lot of weight to it, considering the fact that it is a blood feud.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and Damian Priest losing to Gunther, or Drew McIntyre losing to Gunther, probably not something you want to have. But him having an out or essentially him having an out where CM Punk cost him the title, which all in all is probably the scenario that I see coming out of this.
That's what I was thinking too, is that
I also feel strongly that you might have Drew win it anyways. Because it's his hometown country. He didn't do it at the last Clash of the Castle. And
yeah.
So
but here's the thing, right? Just we're talking about home countries real quick, and I know that last Clash of the Castle was in Wales, in Cardiff, and then if we look at Elimination Chamber this year, it was in Australia in Perth, and Rhea Ripley was the main event, and she won. But Rhea was already champion.
Right.
She just had to retain against Nia Jax.
Right.
That isn't what this is.
No.
Every Scottish talent in this card is a challenger challenging champions. You're not going to go 3 for 3.
No.
I don't think you're going to go 2 for 3.
You might go 1 for 3.
Exactly. You might go 1 for 3. And it's very difficult, in my personal opinion, to say that this is that match, actually.
It is very difficult. There's too many variables.
I 100% agree. I think the women's matches, both of them for the Tag Team Championship and the WWE Women's Championship, I think have better odds than Drew McIntyre does against Damian Priest. And it's
in the gambling sense, the money is on McIntyre.
Yeah, I don't disagree. But I just feel that Judgment Day stuff looming in the weeds is a little bit more. Like, let's be real, right? Do you want to fuck Drew over by interference 2 years in a row at Clash in the Castle? It's hard to say that.
Very hard to, but I feel like that's a direction they're probably.
I feel like it is because it makes sense.
And it's just like with the CM Punk thing is a big factor too.
And Carlito.
Yeah, and Carlito. So I think, but more with the Punk thing because
of course,
Punk is in his head completely. So I don't know, but my guess in the end, I'm going to go. I'm going to go Damian Priest.
Yeah. The one other thing I could say that we did not discuss, we discussed it more so in the context of kind of talking about Raw this week, but listen, there is a distinct possibility as well that Liv Morgan come out for interference as well. Because she already is, I'm going to air quote here, even though you can't see me except for my avatar here, air quotes that she's in love with Dom. For anybody that was watching the Easter eggs of the hotel key card, Finn Balor definitely snagged that bad boy. So who's to say that it's not Liv Morgan coming out?
Finn Balor's just like, really?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I listen, I don't think that was to protect Dom. Just saying that way.
Hell no. Hell no. I'm going to protect you from doing this. No, you're not.
I hope somebody just calls her a homewrecker at some point. Yeah, again, just more speculation on our part in terms
just
of
send
how
her
this
to
is
Moe's
gonna
and
go
we're
down.
going to burrito.
What the fuck?
Welcome to Moe's, ho!
Gotcha. Oh, okay. I was like, where is that coming from? But now I get it. All right. So yeah, I think so far we're both in the same boat. I have a feeling we're going to be on the same boat for this one. So you had said for a second match, there's probably going to be a stipulation. And Dan, as we found out last SmackDown, you are 100% correct. So for the second time, AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes will face off for the undisputed WWE Championship in Scotland at Clash at the Castle, this time in an I Quit match.
Woo. This is going to be fucking balls to the wall because you know Cody's nuts, but you also know too that AJ is crazy. So, but also it's going to be nuts. It's going to be a fantastic match, but Cody's fucking winning. Like, it's not even for me to sit here and debate and be like, well, I don't know. Like, look, you're not going to take the belts off Cody yet. You're just not. I mean, of course, there's rumors that they're already tied. Like, the ratings are down and all this stuff, which is not true.
I think I have that as one of the articles we'll read later too. But I've heard the same thing. But the one thing I would say to that is, yeah, they're down because there's no credible heel for Cody to go against right now.
Yes.
It's nothing to do with Cody being champion. It has to do with the fact that there's no credible heel for him right now.
There's none. You're trying to build guys up, but it's difficult. And it's just, yeah. I mean, I still say, though, the numbers are steady. Like, the numbers are where they were. I mean, he's still selling out everywhere. They're extremely hot, like, creatively. They have a lot of stuff going on right now. All three brands right now are cooking. And they have solid numbers as far as, like, growth is concerned. They're in a hell of a lot better position than they were 2 years ago. They're in a hell of a lot better position than they were a year and a half ago. I feel like, they just came off an extremely successful WrestleMania. And everybody's complaining about, oh, well, Clash of the Castle's not sold out. They're an 11,000 seater. And I saw the ticket prices. It's pretty high.
I don't know if that's part of the articles for later, but I did see that they were saying that, oh, well, last year at Clash at the Castle, you sold this amount. This year, you only have 11,000. Yeah, because that's the capacity of the stadium they chose.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
We're
stop.
the one that paid them.
Exactly.
Shut up, bitches. Like, it's they don't understand when it's like,
Shut up, bitches.
it's every week or every month they're always looking for some statistic or something to be like, that's all it was a month ago. It's like these morons don't understand that you need time to let things kind of simmer. We're only in the water's not even fucking boiling yet on Cody's reign. Like, let's all kind of calm down here and let the water boil and figure out where we're going to go from there.
If I may for a second, I think this is an important context. And we had discussed this last year, obviously not on the show, but on other shows maybe perhaps, and obviously in conversation with other people, which one of them, of course, was,
Ooh, man.
But
yes,
the thing about Cody and story, especially from year one going into year two. Year one, we found out recently, was a little creative control, brother, on the part of Roman Reigns. And to be 100% honest, I get it.
yes.
If you want to make more impact, wait the year. And he was right. Okay? The moment at WrestleMania 40 was that much more meaningful versus WrestleMania 39. And
he did get Jay over as a main eventer too.
That was the other thing that was discussed too in that whole news that came out, we'll say it that way, where they wanted to get Jay over as a big talent. If you wait a year, you're able to do that by not putting the belt on Cody. The other factor for me too is the fact that at WrestleMania 40 had all the run-ins too, which you could make the argument was a little gratuitous, but it does make it more impactful. Let's be real.
Right.
Going into year two of this story, though, from WrestleMania 39 to the aftermath, and then going into 40, this entire year, 2023, basically, really, you're putting Cody, just for lack of a better term, off. You're putting him in a feud with Brock Lesnar that is separate and apart, even if it is a main event style feud. You're putting him in tag team matches with Jey Uso, which, sure, you made him, a quote-unquote main event talent at a point in the main event scene for tag teams, but it doesn't do anything to advance the story. Then you put him against the Judgment Day for the entire months-long process where he's with them and Jay and Sammy and KO, and then, of course, Randy Orton. There's nothing wrong with any of that.
Right.
But it doesn't further any of that story. Okay? The reason for that is partially due to what happened at WrestleMania 39, but also, let's be real, Roman Reigns' schedule.
Right.
The same thing applies here. And I'm just going to say it this way. If you do not understand that, I just got to say,
Shut up, bitches.
That's the case. He 110%. They're waiting for Roman and or The Rock to come back. And we all know that. And for those that don't, now you know. Now you know why this feels slow. Now you know why they're not establishing another heel right now, because they really are waiting for those guys to come back. And this new bloodline thing just is going to be more of a story for Roman than it is for Cody. That's the other thing too. But
Yes.
I digress. I will make this argument. I feel like there's actually no winner in this match. I can't imagine either one of these guys saying I quit.
Depends.
Sure.
It depends, really. I think there's going to be some combination that I expect probably Cody getting him in that's going to make him quit. Like he's going to do something this is going to be one that could challenge our shock value a little bit, because Cody Rhodes in a I Quit match, especially too with another innovator of offense with AJ Styles, I feel like this shit's going to get pretty hairy, and that's kind of what you want in a match setting like this. So, but again, and I'll go with what you're saying, there really is no winner, because I think but that's a good thing, because I feel like AJ's rejuvenated his career in this feud. Even if he loses,
Yep.
people are still taking him seriously and also saying, hey, he's also reminding everybody, hey, motherfucker, don't forget who I am. And I feel like it's reminding everybody of how great AJ Styles is. And it's also giving Cody kind of somebody right out the gate that's respected. And I feel like the match is just, again, going to raise the bar, because the last one was excellent. This one has a chance to be better than the last one. I remember the last one got 5 stars by Dave Meltzer.
Yeah. First time WWE had a 5-star match in a long time.
I know. That's coming from Dave Meltzer. So it's great if Dave Meltzer says 5 stars.
I love how every time you say Dave Meltzer, you right hand. Listen,
actually, it's either this or it's this.
I would have thrown the middle finger up actually at that point, but yeah, I don't disagree. I think it's 100% accurate. Number one, what you're saying. I think that if what we got in France at Backlash was any indication,
They come from France.
We come from France is going to be a great match. I would not be surprised if this is 5 or above again. I just wouldn't.
100%.
I think, to your point of the innovation, I would not be surprised to see them also get more technical here, more submissions. Both have some submissions that they use regularly. Cody started using the Kimura. He also uses the figure 4. AJ has that weird kind of cloverleaf move. He also
the ankle crusher.
Yep, the ankle crusher. He also tends to use a crossface at times. I've seen him use that, so it could definitely be a match where we see a little bit more submission-based wrestling. What I'll bottom line it with, I think we're going to see a lot of ring psychology in this match.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that at all. Because I feel like a lot of matches, especially from people that were recently released, kind of miss that sometimes. So let's just briefly talk about that, since we did talk a little bit about Raw anyways. For those that don't know, Ricochet's contract is up. Apparently this is Ricochet. King Ricochet, whatever you guys want to call him, whatever his name will be in AEW when he debuts there, obviously, because let's be real, that's where he's going. It was reported that he did say he did not want to renew, and that he was just waiting for his contract to expire, which it did. That's why Braun Breaker absolutely destroyed him on Monday night. I'm sorry to Samantha Irving that you had to deal with your social media BS this week about that. Hope Ricochet is okay. Yeah. Yeah, he's gonna have some great matches with a lot of people in AEW. Looking at Will Ospreay, looking at Okada. So I think good for him. I don't think it's the right move for him, personally. However, what a lot of people have said online, I tend to agree with, that he is just not good on the mic. And that hurts him. He's great in the ring, don't get me wrong. Nothing against his in-ring talent. He's awful on the mic.
I think what hurts him for me, and it's always hurt me, is the fact that it's just, he comes across to me as just another indie guy. There's nothing special about him. There's nothing that he doesn't look like a star, in my opinion. He looks like a guy that you're going to see at your rec center every fucking weekend.
I'm going to disagree with you, but only for one reason. It comes down to style. Okay? And I mean that in the ring, not his actual style.
Right, I understand.
He is a phenomenal talent. Will Ospreay is a phenomenal talent. And I think the two of them, could put on great matches. But when we talk about, again, style, neither one of them really fit the mold of what the WWE style is. I think that's the problem, but also the fact that, as I said, he sucks on the mic.
Would you spend money to see Will Ospreay wrestle?
Probably.
Would you spend money to see Ricochet wrestle?
Can I answer that in a not direct way of saying if he was facing Will Ospreay? Yes.
If he was facing Will, so what you're saying is if he's facing Will Ospreay, you'll see him.
No, it's not just Will Ospreay, but it depends on who he's facing. If he's facing Dominic Mysterio, I don't give a shit.
So he's the guy you put up against the guy. That's who he is.
I don't want to say the guy because, again, like, let's look at it from a different perspective, right? Again, we're assuming he's going to AEW. We don't know, but we can assume. So let's say he does. Okay, just bottom line that now. Ricochet is going to go to AEW, and again, let's be real, it's probably going to happen. I wouldn't put him in the ring with MJF. It's completely different styles.
No.
But if you put him in a ring with, like, a guy that is fast and high octane, and the matches he has had with Will Ospreay in the past, that's what I would do. That makes sense. You could put him in the ring with, what's his face? Rey Fenix as well. You know, Rey Fenix and Will Ospreay had a great match this week. You could put him in there as well. You could put him against other talent that is similar in style to him. And that's where those matches really shine. But the matches that he has against anybody else, like let's be real about the last couple matches he's had. You could say Braun Breaker, even though it hasn't been a match. You could say Ilya Dragunov. Say what's his face? Eric, I believe, from the Viking Raiders, even though that was months ago at this point. Gunther, yep. Those matches are okay, but he's doing the lift in terms of the speed and high-flying acrobatic moves, with the other guy, especially, like you just mentioned Gunther, is ground and pound. And a slower, methodical style, which again is the WWE style. I don't hate Ricochet. I think he's very talented. I think he's bad on the mic, and I just don't think he fits the mold of what they want for style-wise in the WWE. Because if it was, they would have gone out of their way to appease Will Ospreay to get him to sign there. The fact that they didn't, and you can make all these arguments in the world, and I'll say the exact same thing that I said earlier about that.
Shut up, bitches!
But it's the truth. If they really wanted him, they would have worked with him and signed him. I don't think that's a failing on Triple H's part or WWE's part.
Not at all.
I think that's more indicative of Will Ospreay himself. But the same goes for other talent, right? If you put him in the ring against a guy like Dragon Lee, people would watch that because it's an existing talent that you have that is a younger talent that is maybe not the same, but similar at least in the sense of he's an acrobatic kind of performer. You could make the argument for Santos Escobar for the same reason. Other luchadors, for example, same thing. Maybe even Axiom in NXT, right? But the fact that they're not doing that also puts Ricochet in this position where he's in now of like, all right, well, you're not putting me in matches that are really that meaningful.
I'm not booked.
I'm not booked. Yeah, thank you. I really gotta thank you for that reminder. I really gotta put that in here. Anyways, it sucks for Ricochet, but they're never gonna utilize him the way that, let's be real, Tony Khan would utilize him. They just won't.
They're also not going to pay him what Tony Khan's going to pay. And
That's
he's
true
gonna get
too.
Paid,
Yeah.
He is going to get paid immensely more than what he's actually worth. And the fact is that, and I don't think I'm being harsh. I don't think I'm being harsh.
I don't think
I'm
you are. I
just
think you're
telling
being
you
honest.
the way it is.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that everybody who is saying that WWE made a mistake about letting Ricochet go are the same 650,000 to 700,000 people that watch Dynamite every week that think that are AEW Kool-Aid drinkers, and that's their thought process, that we're going to get to see Will Ospreay and Ricochet. That's fine.
Ooh, man.
But is an entire audience, is it going to gain you any viewers by this match happening? And the answer is no.
No. Yeah.
You are not gaining anything by bringing in Ricochet. You're not. Oh, we're going to have a great match at Wembley. Who gives a shit?
But
because
the thing is
Wembley
with that,
is probably Wembley is not going to be in the 80s. It's not even going to be in the 70s.
Yeah.
You're looking between 50 and 60K. So it's already going to be less than what last year was. And you don't have the same star power that you did a year ago. So, due to various infractions and injuries.
Okay. I was curious where that was going for a second, because you could make the argument for Will Ospreay, but the other talents, yeah, I get what you're saying now. The only thing I would say about all of that is to what you asked me. And, you know, would I pay to watch Will Ospreay and Ricochet? Probably. But am I going to pay every month your ridiculous fees for pay-per-views to watch Ricochet in a match against, you know, a guy I wouldn't put him up against in MJF, like I said before? No.
No.
You know, am I going to watch him against Rey Fenix? I mean, maybe.
I already know that he's going to be cutting a promo his first night in. And the promo is going to be like, it's going to be cringy because he's going to mention WWE and not using him to his potential and how he let complacency and all that. Like, look, I get it. You have something to prove. But you also have to realize that your ceiling's here. You're not going to get past that. You might get a couple of well-known matches. You're going to get some stuff with Will Ospreay, right? Because he wants to recreate that and put on a much larger scale, which is fine. But you are what you are. And
Oh, man.
what you are is high mid-card and a guy that you're going to put up against a guy. You're not anything where... The only thing that I'm concerned about you leaving is if Samantha goes with you. at some point.
I think that's what everybody's concerned about.
That's my main concern.
Yeah.
But I feel like they'll be smart enough to keep her and give her whatever she wants, and they can coexist. Plus, also, who knows what the next 2 or 3 years is going to hold? Who knows what AEW's financial position is going to look like in 2 years? We don't know.
To that point, I mean, you're right. Nobody knows what the future is going to hold for either company in a few years, honestly. I think for WWE, it's definitely going to be successful because they're going to freaking Netflix for $5 billion. But that's not even counting other moves, because the Peacock deal, I believe you said, is up in 2025. So there's that possibility as well, that they go to Netflix with the library and say, hey, give us another X billion a year or X billion on top of what you're going to pay us per whatever to have the library as well. So the other thing I would make the argument for is the Hulu deal, because currently Peacock is delayed with Raw and SmackDown because they give it to Hulu first. They could absolutely turn around and say, hey, we don't want to do this anymore, and put Netflix as the one-stop shop and have Netflix have it the next day like Hulu does.
Right.
Again, that's all speculation, but let's be real. When you talk about some of these, media contracts, anything's possible. Having said that, we still don't know what AEW's looks like. We're hearing different things. We don't really know 100% what's going on at this point anymore. At first, we were hearing they were getting lowballed. Then we hear they're getting more than what they're getting now. We just don't know. To that aspect of it, though,
it's not $1 billion what he expected. He thought it was going to be $1 billion. It's probably going to be half that.
He's a fucking idiot. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say he's an idiot. I'd just say that
if you think you're worth $1 billion, you're an idiot.
They're not. They're not. Like, they're not. They're not even worth. If they get $500 million, they're lucky.
Yeah, I was thinking the same number actually.
It's just because it's not a sustainable business.
Well, so
the model it is right now.
Hold on. Let's talk about Samantha for a second first before I lose my train of thought.
Yeah.
I think if WWE does not pay her whatever the hell she wants, they're foolish.
Oh, I agree.
Because
I think they're going to pay her whatever she wants.
She will go to AEW at that point.
They go get Justin Roberts back.
Probably get paid more. Yeah, and they'll get him back, for God's sakes. If they were smart, and I mean this in terms of WWE, and it also is going to depend where Ricochet falls on AEW programming, I would put it back on SmackDown, see if he's willing to do Dynamite on Fridays, and then just run it that way. And they're both working on Fridays, they get the rest of the week with each other. If you could do it that way, and of course it's a big if, because they don't know what AEW is going to do with Ricochet, but it's a big if. But if they could do it that way, they could probably retain her, probably pay her a little bit more money too, though.
Let me say this about Ricochet. In 6 months to a year from now, he's going to be the exact same fucking position that he's in WWE, and he's just going to get paid a lot more money.
That's what I was going to say. He's going to get paid more money, though.
I'm going to make more money, but I'm going to be in the exact same fucking position in 6 months to a year, because people are going to realize, oh, wait, I only could bring so much to the table.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Not sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say. The other thing, though, is that, when it comes down to it, the logistics of what they have and what they do, as you were going to say before, is, you're right, not sustainable. I remember the adage of don't do what WCW did, especially in the end, where they have a very, very, I'm just going to say, robust roster to the point of it being bloated and having all your money tied up in contracts. And he is the one that said that. And he is the one that said, you learned the lesson from WCW, you can't do that. And yet, years later, that's exactly what he has done.
Same thing.
And he tied up all the money in the game, too, and lost money on that. And now it's free on Game Pass, so there's that, too.
Or PlayStation Plus, for that matter.
PlayStation Plus, I'm sorry.
You know, it's funny because we were in a group chat where somebody was just like, "Oh, Streets of Rage 4 is on PlayStation Plus." I almost said, "Do yourself a favor, do not get Fight Forever," because I played the game and it's just
not good. Bob Dole.
It's not. It's okay for what it is. But I am so used to the 2K model. Actually, I was really having fun earlier. I was having, like, I've just finally structured a universe that I feel like is best natured to me. And I was having a lot of fun. Like, just not even the rivalries. It's sometimes just filling out match cards where I'm just like, okay, I want to see this. I'll just do this. And it's just, there's that fun part of it. But yeah, but with the AEW game, you really can't even make like a created guy even doing well. Like, you can't. Like, the only thing that you're able to do is a career mode. You can unlock T-shirts and that type of stuff. Like, it's kind of like the old No Mercy, where it's like you're getting the SmackDown mode.
Oh God, yeah.
Where you're getting. I'm gonna buy moves. I'm gonna buy T-shirts. I'm gonna buy entrances, arenas, wrestlers. It's kind of like that, but so it's good for what it is. I like 2K better. I think 2K's got a lot of good things going on. Especially too, I was playing that earlier and having a good time. So, but I don't know. I think they're going to get an increase. I just don't think it's going to be the $1 billion that he keeps referring to. So,
I'd be shocked if they got $1 billion. I'd be shocked if they got 500 million. Honestly,
they're probably going to get 5, at least 5. I just don't think it's going to be $1 billion, and I think they're also going to be on a very short leash if certain numbers are not met. Looking at the numbers this week, where they've lost about a third of their audience in the last year, which they were at about 900,000 plus, which this week they're at like 650, which good old Dave and Brian said yesterday, he's just like, I don't see NXT beating AEW this week. And the numbers came out today. AEW lost to NXT by like 50,000 viewers. Not the demo, though. The demo, though, they won. But overall viewership went to NXT. But, yeah, NXT won. Well, it went to AEW being the demo. But overall viewership went to NXT. Yeah.
poor Tony.
Poor Tony. Gotta start handing out those checks more and more. Say good things.
Oh boy, no comments. Just no comments. All right. Any other thoughts for WWE or for Clash in the Castle?
No, not this week. I feel like everything is kind of self-explanatory. I think it'll be a good show.
Yeah.
And
There really hasn't been a bad show this year.
There really hasn't. I feel like every PLE they've hit it out of the park. Like I haven't left the show where I've been like, oh, that was a waste of time. It's like, well, that was fun.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's kind of the trajectory I want them to stay with. Just make fun shows, you know? Yeah.
I think you nailed it. I think when you make it fun, it's more engaging and it's funner to watch.
Even if it's predictable on some of the matches, it's still fun.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's go on.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the Pro Wrestling World Talk Scroll.
All right. So this week we're going to do it a little bit differently. Just
Less smarter this week.
yeah. I was actually talking to Dan in pre-show that the reason, especially like last week, we went over for a variety of reasons, but
Yes.
I was trying to get more older posts throughout the week because obviously if we do it like right now, we're going to get all the top results, all the ones that are recent. And doing that way, it's fine, but it's like we don't give other writers the opportunity to kind of be shown on the program, number one. But number two, it's like we miss a lot. And we therefore miss a lot of the NXT stuff. We miss a lot of the Raw stuff. We get a lot of AEW because we record on a Thursday, and of course it's the day before on Wednesday. So what we're going to try to do in the future, we're going to start this week obviously, is try to just grab a bunch during the week, put them in a combined folder as it were, and then kind of go through them one at a time that way. So that way we'll get a lot that are throughout the week versus just certain days.
Yes, instead of doing daily show prep, instead of doing like an hour before show prep, we're actually gonna do daily show
What are you trying to say?
I'm just saying.
Dan's like ready to throw me under the bus. Damn.
I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. I'm just saying that both of us need to do it. It's not just you.
No, I agree.
So.
All right. So we're going to start with this one about Orange Cassidy. This one's by David. I apologize for the cropping of this one. It's because the article is very long and a little bit lopsided for whatever reason on my screen. But Orange Cassidy is one of the best things in AEW. And there we go with this one because it's like multiple articles attached to pictures. All right. So Orange Cassidy is one of the best things in AEW. Y'all don't appreciate him, but you should. People say that you want wrestlers who live their gimmick. Well, there he sits with his feet up on the table. This man is always working his gimmick every second. He doesn't step outside of the ring and become normal off-the-clock Joe. He makes it real. Don't tell me you want people to live their gimmicks and stop breaking whatever remains of kayfabe and not appreciate this guy. Pick a side. Either you want wrestlers to live their gimmicks or you want to hate this guy because he does. By David.
He's not wrong.
I don't disagree.
No, I saw him. I saw this getting passed around in the Cult of Cornet group, which I'm a member of. Which they
no shit, Dan.
Yeah. Which anybody you talk about AEW in a glowing light, especially AEW.
You're gonna get shit on in that forum.
You're gonna get shit on in that forum. And I always love it when I see these articles pop up in the Cult of Cornet group. It's just like, oh boy, if they knew I was an incel. But it's hard for me to disagree because I've come around on Orange Cassidy quite a bit. I used to think like, oh, he's just one thing. And then when they made him, I think it was the international or whatever fucking belts, one of the mid.
I think it was like the Atlantic or something like that.
Yeah,
originally.
The Atlantic Championship, and he did a hell of a job. Like he was defending that title on a consistent basis, and he was having great matches.
Yep. And
my respect for Orange Cassidy went really above and beyond. And actually, I have I think his first figure they released. He used to be a guilty pleasure, but now he's like one of my favorites. So, and I'm I'm really happy and hoping that he still is kind of gets that recognition that he deserves, because I feel like he's earned it. I feel like he's earned. If you earn my respect with that type of gimmick, you must be doing something right. Like that's how I feel.
I don't know. For me, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but the reason I kind of jumped in here is the fact that, like, how you of all people, how can you not like him? He's a stoner.
No, I'm just saying that, like, his.
You're like, shit.
No, it's true. But also just, like, because the whole kicking thing with his pockets where he's just, like,
Yeah, I
the
give you
light
that.
kicking. You know, like, I'm not a fan of it. Like, but at the same time, he sold it to me as a character. He sold it to me because I look at him and I'm just like, yeah, I get it. Like, I get it. If I was a wrestler, I'd kind of want to be this guy too, of just not giving a shit. Like, he's not a mark for himself. He just goes out there and he does his job as a character, and people like him. Kids like him. So it's like, what am I going to do? Sit here and shit on him and be like, well, he's not very good, because he's really good.
Yep, shit all over him.
No, I don't want to.
Just messing with you.
No, I know.
All right.
But I'm just saying, I think he's good. I think he's really good.
Yep. No, I don't disagree. All right, so we have the next one up here. I don't disagree with anything you just said, so we're just going to move on. This one is also by David. I think Dan had a theme in mind for tonight.
Gotta give him love.
I know. He actually probably is the most unbiased of the posters.
I agree.
Zack Sabre Jr. thinks that anyone who believes that Orange Cassidy isn't a good wrestler is a joke and a fool. I agree with him. I guess we're in with the Orange Cassidy love tonight by David. Sometimes Cassidy gets accused of being a part of the same flips brigade that offers nothing but pointless flips and worthless repeat Canadian destroyers, but I say Orange Cassidy offers so much more. What I see that many of you all miss is Orange Cassidy the gimmick. The man is not just a gimmick that is on when the TV camera is recording, he lives it. Orange Cassidy is a modernization of an old idea that a wrestler's gimmick isn't just something he turns on once a week, but something real-life state of being. Orange Cassidy's gimmick is the way wrestling should be. The gimmick is real, the gimmick is life. I'm sure that to a few people, we see the real Cassidy, a hard-working person who does everything to make his career succeed, but for most of us, all we see is the beauty of his creation. A character that feels as real as if he actually is that person. Wrestling is, after all, in part, making characters real. In that, he's no different than wrestlers of old. He's just doing a gimmick that wasn't seen. Okay. And there, once again, is the orange one. Not to be confused with Donald Trump.
We met with our U.S. champion this week.
I saw that. I forgot to grab the picture earlier.
What can I say?
I mean, we already just kind of said it all. So, I mean,
I'm not.
I don't disagree with what he said, though, at all. I mean, it's a different way of saying the same article, and I don't think he's wrong. I would make the argument that certain wrestlers of old did not fall into the category of being their gimmick.
No.
Some definitely did. Others did not.
Woo!
Yeah, Ric Flair is definitely a caricature of himself, for sure. But there are others that weren't, and there are others that I'm sure are definitely very different in front of the camera versus behind the camera.
The story of Ric Flair going on a promo and saying, "Girls, I'll be at the Baltimore Marriott, the penthouse suite. No husbands, no boyfriends, 18 to 28. And they're all at the hotel waiting for him." It's like, what the fuck?
Yep.
Like, this is somebody that doesn't... This is somebody that's just on a completely different playing field as far as just, like, coolness. And just live the gimmick 125%. Hogan definitely didn't live the gimmick. You know,
the only gimmick he lived is creative control, brother.
Well, no, the realest we'll ever see of Hulk Hogan is Hollywood, because I feel like that
to a degree, yeah,
he cuts those promos in the mirror all the time. I am the man, like I am the god of professional wrestling. Like I see him doing that in his mirror to himself.
Oh God, yeah.
So,
So let's move on. When WWE, oh, I'm sorry, again, this is by David, another one. Not about Orange Cassidy this time, at least, though. When WWE leaves money on the table, Braun Strowman and Alexa Bliss. Many years ago, WWE, and I'm sorry, I got to interject this, but it was very funny. I saw this week with Liv falling on Dom, the comparison years ago to Alexa falling on Braun Strowman.
well, then there was the she had a match one time with Randy Orton, and she covered Randy Orton where the same kind of way that Liv Morgan did.
Yeah.
And Randy Orton's wife actually got pissed because she's just like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yep.
Like,
it's just funny seeing the comparison than seeing this article is the whole thing.
yes,
But all right. So many years ago, WWE really got into the idea of turning Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch into a power couple. The idea didn't work as well as they would like. Oddly enough, both proved to be better draws separately than they were together. When they were together, they just got on everyone's nerves. You've talked about that too. Yeah. However, in the process, they stumbled onto a pairing that actually would work in Braun Strowman and Alexa Bliss. You know they were thrown together at completely random. However, without the thought, as Vince just filled a slot on some mixed tag team tournament, special for the network, but together they blended in a way that caught people off guard in a good way. Alexa is the small Spitfire woman with charisma for miles, while Braun was the giant of a man touted as the next big show. It was money. Even to this day, this pairing is the most remembered of the entire brief experiment. It caught interest, it got hits and views on social media. It was a pairing that people were really into. Problem: Vince McMahon wanted Seth and Becky, so he played them out and quickly abandoned them, ending the creative run once Vince's objective of Seth/Becky was finished. So they broke up. Now WWE is showing a special playlist with some of the best moments. It almost like they know that they had something here and blew it. This is just one example of WWE blowing it. And there are Strowman and Bliss right there. I'm going to make the argument to say that it's not that they know they blew something, but they want to push whenever the debut is of the Wyatt Six, which these two most likely are going to be a part of.
I've heard Alexa is not going to be involved. It's going to be Nikki Cross.
I heard it's going to be both, so I don't know.
Yeah, I heard it's going to be Monday. They're going to be bad. They're going to be debuting. That's another thing.
I heard it's imminent.
Running rampant.
Yeah, I heard it's imminent, which would make sense that maybe there is a moment at in Scotland at Clash in the Castle where there's that moment, and then they debut them officially, quote unquote, on Monday. But who knows at this point? It's getting closer. That's all we know.
I feel like it's imminent. I feel like it's coming. I don't know when. But I agree with David in the sense of that I did notice the chemistry. I did feel like that it was something that they could have, because they were really pushing Alexa that hard as a heel.
Yep.
And it would have made all the sense in the world for her to have a heater. And one that kind of, but also one that, because she was like she's always professed to be like some Disney fanatic and that type of stuff, which she could have them dress up as like random, like dress up
the
as like
Beast,
random,
Beauty and the Beast.
Exactly, she'd be Belle, and like they could just do like this, all these photo shoots and that type of stuff, like Hunchback of Notre Dame and all the stuff that that could go along with it. Beauty and the Beast that we just talked about. I feel like Dave's right, because they did lose money on this because, again, they wanted to push Becky and Seth as a couple, and that's just, it wasn't working. People weren't buying it. They loved everybody separately. I feel like that also hurt Seth and his development, because
the man's man.
The man's man. It's like a way to fucking just cut the guy's dick off. it's like you're trying to make this guy world champion and somebody believable. Are you going to do that to him? Like, holy shit. And that also just proves the vacuum that they were under in 2019 as far as creative is concerned.
Yep.
Because everything just that was coming out was just shit. And this is another one. And yeah, David's right. They left money on the table.
I got to be honest. First of all, he's right. Yeah, like you said, but you don't see this as much under Triple H because he recognizes the value of what the fans want in a lot of cases. Not every case, but in a lot of them, and we're still waiting for that freaking WrestleMania 40 documentary about Behind the Curtain, which who knows when that's coming. Next Wednesday, maybe. But we hear about these things that have undergone changes, whereas I have to say that if it was Vince, I don't think it would have changed anything. Especially in the WrestleMania 40 main event, I think he still would have pushed The Rock and Roman Reigns.
Oh, yeah, without question. He would have just been like, oh, Cody again? No, we can make more money with this. No, why don't we do 2 nights? Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Look, I was so happy that weekend when I was in Florida when I found out that he was out of there because I knew that he was not going to be able to play a hand last minute in the Royal Rumble.
Right.
And kind of get his narrative across. Because again, I was so concerned, and I said that to several people. I said, I'm concerned I'm going to see Dwayne, and if I see Dwayne, I'm going to be automatically turned off. And I did see Dwayne later, but I wasn't turned off by it until...
Because he wasn't in the match.
Because he wasn't in the match. It was like, okay. Yeah, and I can't argue with their success for Mania this year because they did a fantastic job. So, it's hard for me to hate really what they've been able to do creatively. But yeah, 5 years ago, I feel like this was part of them losing money on the table. But they did that too with Rusev. They did that with Rusev Day. They've done that with several things where they left money on the foot. Like, I thought the Fashion Police should have been a lot bigger than they were because they were fucking hilarious. They were fucking hilarious. And they did nothing. They did nothing with these fucking guys.
I'm going to tell you right now, in that Rumble, that 1 year, should have been Santino. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Alberto Del Rio.
Next question.
No, Alberto Del Rio should not have won that Rumble.
Next question.
Oh, come on, Dan. Just say
Next
it.
question. Next question.
It's not even a question. It's an article.
Next article.
All right.
Fuck you and Santino. I don't give a shit.
I do. All right. This one is Stone Cold.
Why?
Because he should have won, damn it.
No, he shouldn't have.
Yes, he...
No,
you wanted Alberto Del Rio to be champion?
The only other guy that should have won that fucking year was CM Punk. It shouldn't have been fucking...
I would make that argument then, too.
It should have been Punk. Maybe Santino. The only time that I thought Santino probably should have won is he was up in... I think he was in an Elimination Chamber one year against Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
I thought that, yeah, maybe having him beat Bryan that made sense. I wouldn't have cared though you're right though, Santino winning the Rumble I would have been okay with just because of the fact that it was
That's what I'm saying.
Rio sucked.
That's what I'm saying. I don't
terrible.
Dude, if CM Punk's in the last 2, I would have said CM Punk.
Yep.
Dude, if John Cena was in the last 2, I would have said John Cena.
I would have too.
If Gilbert was in the last 2, I would have said Gilbert. Because I just can't stand Alberto Del Rio.
But if it was Goldberg, you'd be like, fuck this. Just fine.
I made sure I said Gilbert for a reason, Dan.
Yes, I know.
All right. Anyways, this one is Stone Cold Odo. WWE just did what AEW could not. They made Ethan Page a star in one incredible night. After months of mediocre storylines and lackluster matches in AEW, Page finally got the chance to shine in WWE, and boy, did he ever. His match against Trick Williams was amazing. You could feel the tension from Page as he fought for the win. The crowd was fully behind him, chanting his name and wanting him to succeed. This match was perfectly paced, building from a frenzied start to a heart-stopping finish. In one night, WWE achieved what AEW failed to do in months. They made Ethan Page a household name. This is how you create a star, folks. WWE showed us that with one right platform and creative vision, even the most overlooked wrestlers, can become superstars. AEW, take note.
That's exactly what happened to WCW in the late 90s, early 2000s. Everybody who was overlooked and the WWE picked up became a star. Look at Chris Jericho. Look at The Big Show. Look at Perry Saturn, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, and Redacted. When they all came over in one fell night. Radicals.
I'm going to make the argument that everybody but Perry Saturn, and that's his own fault.
Well, I mean, Moppy was over.
Moppy was over, but he got that as a punishment. So, I mean, that's not, telling. Listen, I'm going to make an argument here as well. Not so much
Moppy
Saturn.
Was over.
Moppy was over. So was Pepe. So was fucking Pepe.
Pepe was definitely over. More over than Moppy.
Yeah, definitely. I also feel like WWE at that time also did some stars dirty too.
Of course they did.
DDP specifically. I don't hate him feuding with The Undertaker, but I hate him feuding... Yeah, Public Enemy. I hated DDP feuding with The Undertaker because he was stalking Undertaker's now ex-wife at the time, his current wife, but...
Sarah Jessica Parker.
Yeah, no comment. Yeah, I think Stone Cold Oh No is actually 100% right here. We talked about this earlier, which is why we kind of mentioned that we might have to talk about this again, because it's right here. But he's right. He is. He's 100% right that WWE, when I'm talking about then versus now, we're bringing in other talent for WWE in Ethan Page, in Lexis King or Brian Pillman Jr., in Jordan Grace, even though she's not signed with them currently. She is a part of their whole methodology now of working with other promotions, and they're putting on great matches for it. And I have a feeling that Battle Royal in NXT this coming week, is going to showcase some talent from other shows too. But we'll see. On to the next. Oh God, an apology for 2.0. This might be interesting. So this one is by #GoldStandard, which I love that it's not really a name, but more of a hashtag number one, but also I love the name. It's time to apologize to NXT 2.0. When they switched from Black and Gold to 2.0, a lot of people just dismissed it, said it was going to be a flop. Well, they were wrong. The thing that made Black and Gold work was that they brought in indie scene vets that didn't need much work to put on great matches. But with 2.0, rough start. However, we got the following. Braun Breaker, we talked about earlier. Carmelo Hayes.
Yep.
Trick Williams. All three current or former NXT champions. Tony D'Angelo with the Italian hand next to it. I love the nice touch. Ilya Dragunov, another former NXT World Champion. Obafemi, the current NXT North American Champion, and Roxanne Perez, current Women's Champion at NXT. Just to name a few. These guys and girls were green as baby shit when they started. But under the tutelage of HBK, they've quickly become future main event status. They are in NXT, but okay. It's time to admit the facts. There's the NXT 2.0 logo right there.
Yes, we talked about that earlier, where it was, people were saying that was a dark time for NXT. It wasn't their NXT that they had grown to know and love, which, I felt like that at the time that was more of a punishment for the fact that they had lost the Wednesday Night Wars, the fictitious Wednesday Night War against AEW, which their idea was monetary, because NXT was always a money loser. And the reason they got in the USA Network is because of the fact that they were no longer a money loser. They were pretty much at that point breaking even. And that's what happened. I don't think it was, and I think their main objective was to take away from what NXT, what AEW was going to make, like their numbers, which is what they ultimately did. But, yeah, Vince came in and strip mined it, and that's what kind of what NXT 2.0 was born out of. But to agree with their article, they are right in the sense of that of all this talent that's come out of there, that wasn't all bad. They were able to get talent out there that were really good. You think about what Toxic Attraction was doing, which I still heavily disagree with that firing of Mandy Rose at this point. It's like, why did you even do that?
I disagree with the fact they haven't brought her back yet. That's my issue.
I understood the firing at the time.
That's
just
my
because
point.
of
Yeah.
legalities. I get that. I mean, when you have a contract with Mattel, who also makes Barbie and Hot Wheels, so they're every retailer, you're gonna get it. Like, you're gonna be at Target, you're gonna be at Walmart, you're gonna be at like the other stores, like the Toys R Us rebranding and all that stuff. And you're in the same light as Barbie and Mattel, Barbie and Hot Wheels, and that's where you want to be. And you don't want that ever being jeopardized by someone for, posting up pictures that are nice and all, but still.
Good cover.
It's like, but yeah, I'm surprised they haven't brought her back. I felt like, because the thing about it is she improved immensely. Immensely. She was, I was like, she's a damn good, worked her ass off at this. Like, she really wants to, but when you're making that much money without having to leave your house, who am I to knock her?
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. All right, let's move on to the next one. So this one is by TJ. Okay. Remember when Ricky Starks was on a hot streak and being booked all the time? Remember that
Yes.
strap match with Bryan Danielson? Well, Pepperidge Farms remembers. Great reference, by the way, guy. I love Tony Khan, but I can't make excuses about the lack of consistency. Some might say it's Ricky's fault for turning down creative ideas, but he is just one of many who fall under a long line of misuse. Remember, in claymation version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, there was an island of misfit toys. The place the toys went because they never were played with. Well, that island's huge in AEW. Another decent reference, okay. Fortunately, some of these prisoners escaped and appeared on NXT tonight together. Who else in AEW would be on the island of misfit toys because Tony doesn't want to play? All I can think of is like Toy Story, Andy doesn't want to play with his toys or some shit, man.
Well, that's been the ongoing meme for years.
Oh, I know.
Like, every time.
It's probably why I'm thinking of it.
Yeah, I know. But it's so true. I can think of Ricky Starks is up there, and especially to the point with there's certain guys that seem to be in the CM Punk camp, except like FTR, because FTR somehow is now drinking the Kool-Aid and falling in line, especially with what Dax Harwood's been spouting online. It's like,
yeah.
I've never seen a team that was beloved so much, and a team that I was just like, yeah, they remind me so much of Tully and Arn. Just kind of regress, expose themselves to the point of like, maybe they're not that great.
I think they let their mouths get in the way. Honestly.
That's the problem. It's just like you
especially
have to.
Dax.
He just can't shut up.
Yeah.
And I don't care what he says. He's a Triple H guy from what went on down in NXT and the fact that Triple H used those guys with the utmost respect and knew their talent. And they made the decision, well, we're going to re-sign. And since then, it's just been like they can't shut up. They get their mouths get them in trouble. And also the fact that like everything is, you're kind of in the same spot that you were a year ago. You're not the champions. You're kind of just floundering right now. Even though at one point you had like 4 different companies' belts, like they were the tag team belt collectors. Now they haven't had the belts for a while. They just lost to the Young Bucks again. So they're exception to the rule because they've kind of been like, they've kind of aligned themselves with the elites and the Young Bucks and that stuff. But look at Danhausen. Look at Ricky Starks. Look at what Powerhouse Hobbs is hurt.
Yeah.
But, you know, you look at Danhausen. You look at Ricky Starks. Danhausen, I fully expect when his contract's up is going to be out of there. And I fully expect Ricky Starks is going to be out of there. Where Danhausen goes, he might stick with the independent scene, but honestly, I think if he went to WWE, they would not really do anything with his character. And I think they would be able to market him because he's a strong character.
I think that, and I would say take it with a grain of salt, especially those that love Danhausen, but I think he would work in NXT. Not as a main guy, obviously, but somebody as either a manager or a part-time talent that you can wheel out for promos.
I wouldn't have him wrestle at all. If you want my honest opinion, I would hire him. I would do 2 things with him. I would let him host, like, movies from, like, the old Universal library or, like, really cheesy horror films and have him become, like, an Elvira character. Or you have him host his own version of, like, Botchamania or something, where he just looks at really bad wrestling and really cringy stuff and just makes weird comments. Or just give him a sketch comedy show.
I was going to say put him on a podcast.
Give him like a Tonight Show. Like Danhausen, tonight!
Danhausen, we'll take you.
Yeah, and it's just all this...
We can't pay you right now, but we'll take you.
Yeah, exactly. We'll take you. Like, it'd be Danhausen tonight here on the Diamond Podcast Productions. Yes!
Yep.
But also, he could go to WWE and team up with Pepsi Man and be Pepsi-hausen, which would be one of the greatest tag teams in the history of our sport. So,
yeah, about that.
I did love that. That was a Spider-Man meme. You just looked at it. Is everybody just like looking around like, what are you doing?
You did it. You did it. You did it.
I guess you guys are all right.
Yeah. So this one, the article itself by Uncle Evan. So as I mentioned earlier, Cody Rhodes was on NXT this week. This was another segment that Cody Rhodes was a part of. He also gave the undashing mask to one of the female talent. I forget who right at this moment, but this moment was also somewhat funny and potentially foreshadowing for other AEW talent, as it were.
I know it's not Gigi Dolan. It's somebody. It was the other one.
JC Jane.
JC Jane.
Thank you. Yeah, as soon as you said Gigi Dolan, I knew who it was.
Yeah. It's the other one. It's not Gigi. It's the other one.
It's funny that as soon as you said Gigi Dolan, though, I was like, oh yeah, it was JC Jane. Seems like you guys are in a good place. Cody Rhodes to former AEW talent on NXT the previous night. People on social media are calling this moment from NXT a little dig on AEW. No shit. Which, I suppose, at its core, it was. Was incredibly tame, though, however, compared to most of the shots AEW / Tony Khan fired off at WWE. You know what this means, though. Dynamite is sure to have anything but subtle shot incoming from them on Wednesday. On a side note, I wonder if seeing Sean Spears still gives Cody PTSD from the unprotected chair shot he took from him all those years ago.
God.
What did you think about this elite moment on NXT last night? I see what you did there.
That's so funny. Oh.
Yeah.
I did like the.
There's the shot
I did,
again.
I did like the quote by the Young Bucks. Half of the people that don't work anymore is because of us. Like I like. At least they're owning up to it, and making it like turning it into heel heat, which I find hilarious. Like, you know, there is, again, they have nothing. They have nobody but to blame but themselves on all four of these guys. You could have done, well, except maybe Sean Spears, but 3 out of 4 you could have done something with. You could have, and the fact that you didn't is on you. And I you kind of deserve the subtle gig jab because Ethan Page is a bigger star now in one match in NXT than he ever was in AEW.
Because he wasn't booked.
Yeah, because Lexi King is also a household name because AEW wasn't booking him right. And then you got Sean Spears, who, yeah, he did have some moments in AEW, and I feel like his time where he was most over is when he was Ty Dillinger.
Yeah.
But he didn't come back as that. He came back as Sean Spears, so it's like, yeah, okay. But they screwed the pooch on all 4 of these guys, so nobody else but the blames for themselves.
Well, maybe Cody. Cody can blame himself a little bit.
No, he can't.
A little bit. He's
a champion.
No, but I'm saying in AEW.
Well, yeah, but yeah. Well, if I lose this match, I can't challenge for that. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. All right, so this one is, I just saw it by The Prophet, talking about Ricochet, so I knew this was going to come up. Ricochet is Ricochet is a man of the people. No, Christian is a man of the people. Braun Breaker destroyed Ricochet on Monday Night Raw. Couldn't even walk away after this brutal beatdown, but Ricochet is for the fans. Maybe the AEW fans now. So before Ricochet was carted away, he made sure to give fans a sign. A battered and bruised Ricochet, still gathered what injury he had left to tell the fans. He'll be wrestling Orange Cassidy before we know it.
Exactly.
All right,
he knows where he's going too. It's like he knows.
Obvious.
Like it's obvious, but at the same time, it's like you got to be thinking to yourself with Ricochet a little bit. Like, I'll probably get Wembley, but I don't know what I'm going to do after that. So pretty much, it's just going to be the same direct. Like,
I think Tony's going to pay him. You said it earlier.
Yeah, he's going to get paid. Without question, he's going to get paid. So it's like, yeah, you take the money and run. But you're not going to... You can't pay guys top dollar when you know this guy is not going to be able to give you the same, is even a quarter of probably what you're going to pay. And that's the predicament he's in with Ricochet, because you're going to overpay him. And you're going to overpay him probably double from what he probably got from TKO and WWE.
I don't know what his contract was with TKO WWE, so I'm not going to say that verbatim.
It's probably more than $350 guaranteed. But
probably
you wonder, but AEW is at least going to give him $2 to $3 million.
I wouldn't be surprised if he makes $5.
No, I don't think he makes $5 because he might make $5. He's a fucking idiot.
Yeah, that's my point. Is that I don't have faith in Tony Khan to sit back.
But even $2 to $3 million, you're not making that back.
I agree, but I don't think Tony's going to see it that way. I think he's going to look at it in two perspectives. One, very simply, is the gotcha. I got you. You didn't go back to WWE. Ha 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 ha. Look
What does
I
that
did.
do? It doesn't do anything.
It doesn't do shit. But you know, when he's snorting his coke at the end of the day, that's what he thinks. And on top of that, I think it's, again, he looks at the perspective of of Ricochet versus Will Ospreay, and he thinks he can sell money on that. And listen, he's not wrong, but how many times can you do that match? At some point, it's gonna get stale. At some point, you're gonna have to put him against somebody like your top tier talent, whether that be Swerve, Joe, MJF, Jack Perry of all people. You know, I don't know who else you could really put him against that is going to be convincing. But again, as I said earlier, it's completely different styles of wrestling.
Yeah, you wonder in the end. Yeah, after Ospreay, I have to ask the question. After Ospreay, then
Who else? Yeah.
Like,
I mean, again,
who else are you going to put up against?
Again, like I said earlier, you could put him against Rey Fenix. They have a couple other luchadors that I can't remember off the top of my head right now that you could potentially.
I think it's either
too.
Pentagon or it's either Pentagon or Rey Fenix that WWE's interested in. I forget who, but it's either one of
I think it's
two.
Penta, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and
because Ray's gonna have to change his name if he goes to WWE.
I know.
Rey Fenix and Rey Mysterio are a little too alike.
They just name him Phoenix.
Yeah, they could do that.
Yeah.
That's not bad. The other factor with the AEW is, again, the clash of styles a lot of them have. Like, you know, Will Ospreay and Rey Fenix, as I just mentioned, are very different from a lot of the talent that they have. You know, Jack Perry is still way too green and definitely not as talented to wrestle a guy like Ricochet and have it be an impactful and watchable match even.
No.
And that's part of the issue, is that a lot of those guys wrestle very certain styles or very specific styles that are just going to clash with a guy like Ricochet to a point where it might not be watchable. There are guys in WWE that probably talk to him and go over the spots so that he can do them effectively.
Right.
But as we've seen with AEW, that's not every guy.
No.
So I don't disagree, though. I think, obviously, as we keep saying, Ricochet most likely is going to end up in AEW. But we'll see. And then we'll see how much Tony pays him, because I think it's going to be too much regardless of whatever he gets. But,
whatever he pays him, it's going to be too much.
Yep. So this one is also by the Prophet, talking about Jey Uso. This Jey Uso fan cooked. How would you feel about main event Jey Uso doing Yeet Chin music? I think this is a great idea. Not only is it a great reference of the past, but it could help to move the super kick back into a finisher. Would you like to see this? Yeet! Here's the post he had, by the way, the guy he's talking about.
It depends if Shawn Michaels will let it happen.
I don't see why he wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, it does make sense. Like, I was against it at first, but now I'm like, yeah, it makes sense.
I think it's a great call, and modernizing the call is the thing. And you could always talk about two guys that had some version of chin music as a super kick finisher. The sweet chin music and then the yeet chin music.
Don't forget Sweet Shin Music by Dude Love.
I'm not counting that. Yeah, I don't hate it. I think it's a good idea, especially from a fan perspective, but, you know, who knows? So this one, talking about Okada and putting respect on him, also by the Prophet, ironically enough. Put some respect on Okada. Some of you buffoons are already complaining about Okada and his Continental Crown Championship. Are you dense? He had his first successful defense against Pac. This is one of the most accomplished and best wrestlers of all time. His Continental reign is only getting started. Don't fool yourself. Okada is certainly a better champion than part-timer Logan Paul. The Rainmaker is one of the greatest champions in wrestling today.
So true.
The only thing I would say to this, and it's not a knock on him, is that he's a little bit older now. That's it. He's still nasty. He's still very talented. But I think as time progresses, he might be getting a little bit past his prime and may need to adapt. Is that right now, though? No, it's not. And he's 1,000% more talented than Logan Paul. Not to take anything away from Logan Paul for the WWE bros in here that listen to the show. Logan Paul is very talented as well. But Logan Paul and Okada are in very different places. Okada is probably going to be wrapping up his career in the next 5 to 10 years, potentially. Logan Paul, if he sticks with it, is just getting started.
Just getting started.
And he's a lot younger. So,
and he's got less mileage on him because...
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But Okada's also got New Japan mileage.
Yeah.
That's a lot more different.
Yep.
Because Kenny Omega's dealing with that now, and Will Ospreay is going to have to deal with that in the next couple of years too. They have what is called New Japan mileage, which is a lot heavier on the tires than what you're dealing with working for WWE. Even AEW now, even AEW is like a step below New Japan, but New Japan, those guys fucking kill themselves.
Yeah.
Constantly.
That's truthfully why I was talking earlier when we talked about Ricochet, is just talking about the style. The style is so different.
Yes.
And when you translate that back to New Japan, it's very similar to that, but a little bit more brutal than that. So they throw in like freaking Germans and then do backflips and, stuff that Ricochet does, where they do the standing moonsaults and standing shooting star presses and stuff like that, and then beating the absolute shit out of each other. It's just completely different. The one thing that I will say, just based on the New Japan part, is I hope WWE really does go to Japan soon, especially with all these international shows. I think that'd be a great place for them to kind of visit, because they'd be hungry for it too. They would be. And you have a lot of Japanese talent on your roster already, so I think it's time.
I'm wondering, well, we're talking this weekend, the rumors of the impending announcement of the Pro Wrestling Noah working relationship. So you wonder if that's part of it. But who knows? I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with that, and also to see if they establish some type of home base in Japan. For all we know, they're buying the company, and that's their WWE Japan unit that they're going to run. I don't know.
True.
So
this one by Stone Cold Oh No, talking about Japan and Japanese wrestlers. Triple H has been shielded from criticism by fans and podcasters. No, he hasn't. But he deserves scrutiny.
Depends what podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Not ours. But he deserves scrutiny for underutilizing talent and leaving some wrestlers idle, similar to the criticisms leveled against Tony Khan. It's time to hold Triple H, accountable for booking decisions and give him the same level of scrutiny as other promoters and what they face. It doesn't name him, but there is a picture here of somebody we talked about earlier in Shinsuke Nakamura. Your thoughts?
It's a massive disservice, his booking the last year. Because I thought when they turned him heel, I'm like, oh, and they added a second championship. I was like, finally, give this guy a world title. And it just seems like he has just been jobbed the fuck out for at least the last year and a half. And it's unfortunate because I think back to like 2016, 2017, and how over this guy was. They're singing his fucking goddamn theme song.
Yep.
And they didn't give him the title. And he's been chasing it ever since. And it's like it's almost a hopeless thing of him winning one. And it's unfortunate because it's like I thought Triple H was going to do something with him because this is one of the guys, one of the building blocks of the old NXT, and him with Triple H at the helm. I figured he would excel, but no, he has been not used to the best of his abilities. I believe he's been doing way too many jobs. There are certain guys that I'm very surprised with that he hasn't utilized to the best of his abilities. Guys that have either been losing all the time or guys who have just been spinning their tires for years. And yeah, they do have a lot of talent, and I get that, but there's also a lot of guys that you're doing a massive disservice to. And I feel like Shinsuke is one of them.
I think 100% I think he's one of them. I remember when he first came back, I was like, oh man, finally. Like they're finally going to do something with him. And, they had him be a face for a little bit. They turned him heel, and it seemed like, okay, now this might be the time. And hell, they might take the belt off Seth Rollins and finally give him the title, and that didn't happen either. And nothing against Rollins, it's just I didn't want a long-term reign for him. We already had one in Roman. I didn't think we needed another one on Raw either with Seth Rollins. That's not to discredit him. It's just I wanted something a little bit different. And I thought finally, okay, we're going to have that. Shinsuke is going to win one of these matches against Rollins. Didn't happen. I get him jobbing to Cody Rhodes. I didn't really care for it. And then after that, it's just like nothing. And they're still doing these vignettes on SmackDown saying, oh, and this, that, the other thing. And it's just nothing's happened.
Well, there was the rumor they were going to have him debut again, like CM Punk debut against him because he started using the GTS and some other things, and that just never came to pass. Which I thought that would have been cool.
You know what? It reminds me of with him a little bit is Lacey Evans before she asked for her release, where they're trying to do like so many different things with the character, and none of them are sticking.
I don't think it's that because number one, you're dealing with somebody.
I don't think it is either. Just a good example.
You have someone that has immense talent to someone that just really doesn't have a lot of talent.
I don't think they gave her a chance to show it. Is the thing, especially in that Marine kind of.
I loved her gimmick before when she was the Southern Belle. I don't know why the fuck they took that up from her. Because that Southern Belle gimmick worked like a fucking charm. And they just were like, let's change it up. No!
I don't know, man. I think it's when she came back from the pregnancy is when they changed everything up, and then nothing stuck after that. But
when Flair was the daddy, I thought that was funny.
Oh, that was hilarious. Yeah. All right, so this one is by Mr. ES Guy. AEW, the international monopoly. Has AEW captured the UK market, or is this just a dull phase before the resurgence in buying tickets? Regardless, this is really embarrassing for WWE. What do you think the reason is for this? And this is ya boy. Vindicated, it is embarrassingly low Clash at the Castle tickets emerge. Yeah, because they're in a smaller stadium.
They're in an 11,000 seat arena.
Yeah. It was the same in France at Backlash. It was about the same kind of audience level.
And it was loud as fuck in that goddamn arena in France.
This freaking camera was bouncing.
Yes, that's how much noise they were making.
We're gonna move on. we already talked about this earlier a little bit, so let's just move on. Roxanne Perez and Jordynne Grace delivered. The match was great, but do you think it should have been the Juggernaut, Jordynne Grace, to come out victorious? The Juggernaut is supposed to be an unstoppable force and a huge shock victory.
The Juggernaut, bitch!
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing, too. And a huge shock victory and champion of both NXT and TNA would have been a huge accomplishment for Jordan Grace. I still think this collaboration between WWE and TNA is going well. It will get a lot bigger and better, but I think this could have been a massive moment in what was kind of become a forgettable PLE for NXT. No, it's not. A missed opportunity given the star power of the card and the UFC location tie-in. What was your opinion? Should Jordan Grace, have won? This one by the Prophet.
Yes.
Yep, we talked about this earlier. She should have won. I
agree
think
with
this is
you
a
on
massive
most
missed
points.
opportunity. Yeah.
Like most of the points, I agree with them on. So,
Including the Juggernaut, bitch.
yeah.
All right. Yeah, I feel like we already talked about that enough before. We don't have to go through it again. So this is the one that I was talking about earlier that we'll talk about a little bit here in this article by the Prophet. Big news. Former WWE Women's Champion Io Sky will appear for Rosie's Marigold on July 13th against Utami Hayashishita. I'm way too tired to try to pronounce that. I apologize. Hayashishita.
Let me get Meltzer on the phone. He'll pronounce it.
Yeah, then he'll shit on me for it. No, thank you. This is huge news.
You're really uncultured, Mac. You really probably shouldn't be doing this. I'm a professional that's been doing it for over 40 years.
I'm sorry I record when I'm tired, Dave.
I work for
Fuck yourself.
I work for the National.
Shut up, Dave!
Frank DeFord's National. I work for that.
Huge news for Io Sky. I wonder if she will come back with Juliana in Damage Control. And here's what that match is going to look like. I think this is really great news.
Kick ass.
Yeah. When I heard it and I saw it, I was like, wow, because you see WWE bring in talent from other promotions, like we have seen with Jordan Grace.
Yes.
But we don't see them going to the other promotions themselves.
No, it's very rare that they, except I think when Great Muta was retiring, they let Shinsuke go over. But no, it has been very. They need to be in control. It's a control issue. They can come here, but we're not going to let them out. But that's softened now because I think everybody's global now. It may not feel like it, but everybody is global now with social media. So there is a good section of talent and from other countries that are going to get a buzz and a forefront for them. Because wrestling fans seek that. And all it takes is one guy to share clips online and it's going to hit. If you're good, if you're talented, and people don't know about you, and the right guy in the right group just sends your stuff out and talks about how good you are, then you got it made. And your reach now, get a YouTube channel, get your highlights up there. Your reach now can get you a bigger contract or even get you higher booking fees. And I think that's what WWE looks at now is the fact of that it's just like, look, if we work with these other companies, they'll get something from it. We'll get something from it. It's all about market shares. And WWE, I'm sure, is looking at what AEW has done with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and they're thinking, we got to do this. Like, we really need to do this. Because we're going to lose our global footing, even though, yeah, they have a huge lead and all that stuff. AEW is trying actively to get the international markets. That's why they're in Canada for months at a time sometimes. And that's why they keep shooting at Wembley every year. Because they feel like that they control the international markets at some certain extent.
Anyway, no comment on that one.
Not saying it's
I know.
true.
I know you're not. I know you're not. All right, so this will bring us to the last article of the evening for the scroll. This one I had to bring up. We're not talking about it this evening. We'll talk about it next week with Who Killed WCW. This one kind of goes into a lot of context, so I'm not going to read every single thing verbatim. This one is by Ripper. So Ripper, I apologize in advance. Unbiased journalists / podcasters of the internet. So this is people basically talking shit, of course. Saying,
us?
No, not us.
You taking a shot at us?
No. Ironically
Okay.
enough, I'm sure
Ripper.
his next post probably will be though. Unfortunately, so he's basically saying that these unbiased journalists / podcasters are not really unbiased. So one of the things that Bischoff has said, for example, at this point, entire personality is hating on AEW. Instead of 83 weeks, he should probably rename his podcast Anti-AEW. Booker T gets visibly pissed off when somebody says something good about AEW in front of him. Talks as if it's the worst thing to have happen in wrestling and got pissed at the Brits for selling out All In. Ariel Helwani asks Tony Khan questions he probably cannot speak about due to legal issues. Probably not really. Gets frustrated when Tony does not answer, but his entire personality is to hate Tony Khan. So much talk so that he could talk about WrestleMania week, was asking his guests to crap on AEW, gets annoyed when Cody and others refuse to do so. Meanwhile, it's not legal because CM Punk talked about it for you, but okay.
Yeah, he did.
Cornette. This is funny. I'll read this one verbatim. This is the same guy that said Kevin Owens would amount to nothing. Do we really want to listen to him? Yes. Okay. Stuck in the 70s. Hates almost everything AEW does. Clearly the product is not for him, but still not stop watching. Probably the wrestling equivalent of Star Wars fans that are mad at Disney for having characters of color. Yeah. Oh, let's just keep going and then we can rip it apart after. Bully Ray. Constantly hating AEW, most recently spent a good portion of his podcast literally begging Ricochet not to sign with them and stay with WWE. The most biased and evil journalist probably paid by Tony Khan. Meltzer and Alvarez criticized AEW booking of the women's division, criticized AEW booking of Hangman's title run, criticized AEW handling of Jay White, Takeshita, criticized AEW taking the limelight away from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Gave more 5/5+ star matches to NXT Black and Gold era than to any other promotion around that time. Yeah, because it was good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but how dare they say some good stuff about AEW? Must be biased. Must be paid by Tony Khan. I know this straight through most of you, but well. Also, here's a picture of Chris Jericho, since you guys hate him too. The results of your IQ test are in. Turns out you scored a 0. People are allowed to hate AEW. I'm sorry.
Yes. No, we are. I wouldn't say I'm a hater. I would say that I'm just going to tell you like it is.
Yeah.
I don't have an agenda. I don't work for any company. I don't get paid by anybody. And the fact is that from moment one with this company, when I saw first couple of their shows, I said, I don't know if they're ever going to turn a profit because I don't think he's in this for, he's a fan running the company. He's running a wrestling company that for him, it's kind of like the movie The Toy. And that's all I'm gonna. That's kind of how I feel about it. It's like it's just this thing, and he wants it, he buys it, and he gets all these guys that they all hang out with him. He always wanted to be one of the boys, and that's what he is. He's one of the boys. The problem is he shouldn't be one of the boys. He should be telling the fucking boys what to do.
Well, I agree, but I'm going to also throw out that that's not all it is. I think Tony Khan books for one person and one person alone.
Tony Khan.
And that's Tony Khan, exactly.
It's everybody when they said they wanted a true alternative because their number one complaint, Vince McMahon books for Vince McMahon. Well, guess what, kids? Tony Khan books for Tony Khan. Where Triple H books for everybody.
Yep.
There's the difference.
Yeah.
And that's why they are in the position that they're in right now. And as much as people want to sit here and say, Vince McMahon didn't have a good decision all these years, if it wasn't for Vince McMahon saying Roman Reigns is a star, he booked him the wrong way for 5-6 years.
Yep.
But when he hit. And he hit fucking huge. And he has that on his chip.
The thing is with Vince McMahon, too, is Vince McMahon has been doing this since the early 80s.
Oh, God.
And
And
how many times did he hit over the years? You could make the argument that, sure, yeah, he there are times he didn't hit.
no,
95, he did not hit on anything.
Warrior.
Don't do that.
Warrior.
Don't do that.
Warrior.
Shut
I'm
up.
going to keep saying it.
Didn't know any better, goddammit.
No, it's just hey, look, it's not my fault you backed the fucking wrong horse at WrestleMania 6, okay?
I know.
Like, it's not my
I just wanted
like,
somebody else to fucking win. Jesus.
why?
Because I
There
fucking
was
got
nothing
sick of
wrong
him
with
winning.
Hulkamania. Things were fine. Things were fine. Things were fine. The moment fucking Warrior took over, it was like, oh no!
Oh.
Then we end up in Iraq because of him.
No comment on that one. Jesus. Either way though, regardless of Warrior, it wasn't just that. 95, he nothing stuck.
Nothing. I don't blame anybody for 95. It's
No.
like, do you blame Diesel? No.
No.
Do you blame the Smoking Guns? No. I can't blame anybody.
Yeah.
Like 95 was just a shit year.
Yeah.
That when the best company out of entire professional, out of all of wrestling in 1995, when the best wrestling company was Extreme Championship Wrestling, and they had a budget of $0.
Yeah. But I think WWE learned from that in 96 and on, because then they're like, oh, hey, let's start planting seeds for the Attitude Era. And
They fucking lost Hasbro in 95. That's how bad things were.
yeah.
Like,
Was not
they
good.
lost Hasbro. It was bad. Like, just nobody gave a shit. I remember that WrestleMania that year. They literally had to fucking stack the deck. It's like, oh, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, Pamela Anderson, Nicholas
Oh,
Turturro,
God,
anybody they
yeah.
could fucking think of
Yep.
to throw against the wall at that show. They did it for WrestleMania 10 too, but I understood because it was the 10th anniversary of WrestleMania. That was the year they got Burt Reynolds. Looking back on it, that was fucking cool.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, you're like, wow, he got fucked on that divorce.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Oh man, that's funny.
Why is the Bandit now having to fucking be at WrestleMania? Why? What happened? What happened, Bert?
Yeah. But yeah, that's the show. I don't got anything else unless you do.
Go Celtics.
Go Celtics.
Banner fucking 18, folks.
Go Sports. Go Celtics. Go basketball.
In the next, if they win the championship in the next few weeks, you will be seeing me wear a hat. And I will probably placing a banner in the background as well, reminding everyone, and Lakers fans especially, that this is Title Town. We've had a 5-year drought. Haven't won anything since Super Bowl 53. And now it's time again for us to circle the wagon and bring home another one. Hopefully the first of many with this franchise.
Hopefully. I think it's also time for us to circle the wagon and say good night, good evening, and goodbye.
All right, everybody.
Oh, you wanted to do your plugs first, though, my dude?
Well, it's just, again, you're listening to The Shoot or watching The Shoot here on Diamond Podcast Productions on YouTube and also on Spotify and Apple under Pro Wrestling World Talks. So we are,
Taking over, bitch.
And we're taking over. We're taking over. We're taking over. Like the BWO instead of the NWO.
Yes.
Who's the Blue Meanie? That's the question.
Hold on. I can tell you who that is. One sec.
Hooray.
Yep.
Yeah, he's definitely the Blue Meanie. You could be Hollywood Nova.
Oh, cool.
Well, actually, could you throw a super kick?
I mean, probably.
Okay, so then I guess you're Big Stevie Cool, and I'll be Hollywood Nova. Because you should do the super kick. If you can do the super kick, then yeah, a hell of a lot better than what I can do. That means Boo Ran has to be able to do a fucking moonsault too in short shorts.
I'm gonna go throw up now. I know nobody really knows Boo Ran, but the imagery that I just got in my head is a little vomit-inducing, to say the least. So. Right. On that note, as Dan said, Diamond Podcasting Productions, The Shoot, both on YouTube. We also have social media channels on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter X. Also follow the Pro Wrestling World, on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook as well. But you're listening to the show, and we're going to end the show, at least for this week. Next week, we'll probably review a little bit on episode 2 and episode 3 of Who Killed WCW, and we'll also be reviewing Clash at the Castle from this weekend as well. And maybe something else, we don't know yet. But, at least for tonight's show, bye!
All right.